Be careful with this thing.
Well, we're live, dude. So let's go.
Oh, well, thanks for the countdown.
Oh yeah, no problem. What's up, everybody? This is the Cinemana podcast, and this is episode 3.
This is episode
You might
3.
be wondering where episode 2 is at. It is in the netherworld where it's being currently edited because
That's right.
I was in Europe for a while.
And I had COVID, so
He had COVID.
Yeah, unfortunately.
So,
So
he's still here. He's alive.
yeah, I'm alive, and you're alive as well. So
I am
welcome back.
alive. Thank you.
Yeah.
It's good to be here.
Yeah, we got to catch up a lot.
Yeah.
It's fantastic.
So
So hello, everyone. This is our
Hello.
first live run through. This is
This
going to be a
is.
bit of a mess. Okay, we're figuring it out as we go. There's going to be a ton of mistakes, but this is fun. And yeah, man, we love what we do.
We are live. I just checked it right now. So there it
Okay.
is.
We're gonna have that weird mirror image now if you're gonna be checking. Oh, jeez. All right.
Oh, it's okay. It's fine. There's no sound there. Oh, look, it's auto caption there too.
Nice. Okay.
So,
There we
yeah.
go. All righty. So
You got more news than I do this time because I have been out of the loop. So I think I'll let you take it off.
you have been. You've been out of the
Yeah.
country, and yeah, you've been missing out on some stuff. But I do want to hear about what you have seen and your experiences abroad,
Okay.
and your critique on the entertainment industry out there from what you've sampled. So let's start off with that, and then we'll
Start
ease
off with
into
that.
yeah, we'll start
Okay.
off with that, and we'll ease into the news because then once we get the ball rolling, there's no stopping.
Okay.
So,
Well,
yeah.
how about we just do this in an interview style because I don't really know where to start.
Okay, so just first off, what did you see out there related to cinema that impacted you in a very particular way?
Okay. I didn't go see any movies.
Okay.
I was gonna go see a movie,
All right.
and then I realized that they dub everything in French, and they don't use subtitles. So
So it's dubbed, so
without subtitles.
without subtitles, without English subtitles
Yeah.
or anything.
So I said
Okay.
no.
Yeah, because you don't speak French.
Yeah, I don't.
Right.
Like barely saying hello and goodbye and all that.
Right, which I find very weird because out here we do the opposite. We're not really fans of audio dubbing. We're
Right.
fans of subtitles.
Right.
Like
Yeah.
anyone that's seen foreign films, and the majority of foreign films that are shown out here,
Mhm.
they're subtitled.
Yeah.
Which I prefer much better.
You might get like on Netflix, they'll do like an English version, you like dark.
Correct.
Or,
On Netflix, you have
yeah.
the option
Well,
depending on what
or
you like.
Squid Game, they did that too. But
Right.
I much prefer watching it in its native language because you get
Right.
that nuance with the actors and the way their
Right.
mannerisms are and all that.
Right. You don't want it
Um,
to look like
yeah.
a 1970s old, dubbed Chinese movie
Yeah,
where people's lips are, moving and they're not
Yeah,
talking.
yeah,
It's just this
yeah.
weird thing. It takes you out of it.
But one thing I did do that was really cool, which is I went to the cinematography museum out there in Paris.
Nice.
Which it's I went there specifically for the Georges Méliès exhibit, which
Yeah.
is with those who might be familiar with the in the eons ago
Mhm.
with the what is it what's the moon one with the face and the rocket
I forget the name of that one.
Trip to the Moon is
Yeah.
what it's called.
Okay.
And Georges Méliès is actually interesting because he was the first one to do a color.
Mhm.
So he actually, him and his team, well, probably mostly his team, but hand painted each little
That's right.
strip of film, which
That's
is
right.
very time consuming.
Yeah.
I mean, you think about editing back then, you got to cut the whole thing. and
Right.
they're
Frame by
actually
frame.
coloring it. So I
Yeah.
saw that. If you've seen the movie Hugo, which takes place in a train station in Paris, it has that animatronic.
Right.
That was there. That was really
Right.
cool
The
to see.
animatronic
It
robot.
had a lot of all
based
his
on an
all
actual
his
real
old
life.
equipment and stuff like that. But then it goes deeper. It goes it goes on different levels and different rooms, and it kind of goes through the whole history of stuff that I learned in school, which is
Yeah.
you get the Lumiere brothers, you get the Edison stuff.
Yeah.
And you got some there was a hand crank
Projector.
projector
Right.
where you have to keep going like this
Yeah.
at a certain
Yeah.
speed
Yeah,
for
yeah.
it to
They didn't have motors.
project. Yeah.
They
was a
didn't
person.
figure out motors yet. So it's you were the motor.
And it was cool because there's a lot of the museums I went there for were
Mhm.
pretty busy and just kind of like hectic, and I didn't like being around a bunch of people
Yeah.
and not being able to sit there and enjoy stuff. So I went there, and with this museum, it was dead. It was like maybe one other person with the person I was with.
Yeah.
That came a little bit later. So walking around this really small kind of intimate museum with just by ourselves, and get to sit down, and they have all the old silent films on a continuous reel that they just keep showing, and you can sit down and you watch the reel, and then you're like, oh yeah, you see that, and you get up and you go do the next one. And it was interactive too because it had things that you could use. They had little slides, for the projectors. They had a Nickelodeon, which is if you're not familiar with the term, well, I mean, you might be familiar with the term, but where it comes from is you would put a nickel in these machines, and you put your face like that into the viewfinder, and that's how
Right.
you'd watch a
It
little.
was like for people that don't know what a Nickelodeon is, it's like
Yeah.
a very early kind of movie projector, or yeah, it was like where you saw movies, where you saw like
Yeah, you
little
put the nickel in there,
moving
and then it
pictures.
it plays.
And it had like gargles that
Yeah.
and it was like a podium basically. You walk up to it, it was just a
Yeah.
box, and it had these little
Kind of
things
like
for the eyes.
those little goggles that you'd click, and it would show
It's
you a
exactly like
picture,
that. Yeah.
but it was a movie, and
Right.
it
Yeah.
would play,
Yeah.
and then so you get to see one of those, and
Cool.
that was cool.
Yeah. So the early days of cinema,
yeah.
right? You got to see all those kind of the inventions that kind of started that movement.
Oh yeah,
That's
yeah.
cool.
And
Nice,
then
man.
another thing I saw was in the Pompidou, which is more of a modern art museum.
Mm-hmm.
They had some like foreign films that were very interesting to me. That there was one that was like a 3D, put in the goggles, and you watch it, and it was about this old German photographer who was coming to terms with himself taking portraits of these Nazi leaders and stuff,
wow.
and going through this kind of existential. He was blind in his old age, and he was kind of going through these hallucinations of coming to terms with the devil aspect of like thinking it's evil what he did, and like coming to terms with that.
Oh
and
wow,
helping out. Even it's a minor thing, you're taking pictures, but
right,
kind of perpetuating the propaganda of it all. And
so there's a sense of guilt.
Yeah, he was going through that. Yeah, it's kind of having these hallucinations of being revisited by things from his past. It was super interesting.
Ooh, okay, that is an interesting story. Nice.
Yeah,
okay.
In the film, it's a little interesting part. Like he would tie these strings around his house, and he would had bells on them, and that's how he kind of got around. He would kind of like
very clever.
Yeah. So did that, and then there was an exhibit that went kind of through the years. It was like the 80s to the 90s, and it was kind of like a very vaporwave and like nostalgia of like computer and digital media.
Okay, so the evolution of technology, basically,
like it was digital media and like how it affected like with the news and stuff like that. So I kind of went through that. It was okay. Pompidou is very a physical attraction exhibit, so it's a lot of things that are built in a physical sense, not like a painting or like a photo.
Right.
It's kind of
you can interact with them.
Not like interact, but it's it's built by it's physical. It's like this big building or like a small building in a room, and, and it's a lot of.
And it had these kind of very physical objects like inventions and all this. Different types of technology.
That's
cool, man.
So in terms of filmmaking, stuff like that, that's basically what I did the most.
Yeah.
Besides that, not too much.
Okay.
In terms of like an outlook, I think it kind of just like reinformed what I like about it all. And, for those who know the history of film, it kind of all, the early beginnings and like the rudimentary technology, started here, but all the evolution of like the medium itself really came out of France and Paris in general.
Yes, it did.
And with
That's
the Lumiere
right.
brothers.
They
Georges Méliès.
They took
narrative film. And
they took it and they ran with it.
Georges Méliès especially because he was kind of the father of narrative movies.
Yeah.
And the Lumiere brothers kind of like documentary style.
Yeah.
And, which are both pretty cool because I like them both. So.
Yeah, that's not bad, man.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right. Well, welcome back. You were gone for a little bit, so we did take a little bit of a hiatus, but that's awesome that you came back with a different outlook on the early days in the history of film. And that I think that leaves a certain impact. With you, no matter how old you are, especially if this is your passion and you're a lover of this industry,
right?
So that's cool, man. And you got you went to the museum, so it's a little bit, I can understand the connection that you have, there, because I've gone through very, very similar things, so I get that too. Yeah, man. So that's cool, man.
And I think it was all not just like the film part too. A lot of it was very
cultural as well.
Cultural, but also like the art that I did see, was very eye opening. Like I saw the Van Gogh room and
that's right.
D'Orsay. I was the first one there.
Yeah.
I think I told you I got we were the first group in the museum, and I got the map, and I'm like, okay, there's Van Gogh level 5, and I double stepped the staircase, and I just ran up, and just sweating, had my backpack.
You weren't trying to wait in line or anything.
Got there. But it was worth it. I was just like, whew.
Yeah, that's good.
You see because they have like someone next to the door, like like to watch it, and I'm like, oh, bonjour, and it's like, and this got right next to it. But I had a good half hour with Van Gogh, like to myself, basically.
That's cool.
You see the texture, and it's very influential.
Good move, man.
Yeah. Looks like Lindsay said hello. So hey, Lindsay.
Oh, okay. We got a shout out. Nice. All right.
I don't know who else it says there's one now, but it might just be me looking at it. So
I think it's just you.
but we'll be here for a little bit. So
Okay. All right. Cool. You ready to move on?
yeah,
Let's
let's
get on
go.
to
The actual meat.
the actual thing, the actual
Yeah,
podcast here. All right. Awesome. So there was a lot going on. Tons of information, tons of trailers are out. Of course, the San Diego Comic-Con, which is the most well-known and biggest Comic-Con of them all,
hmm
just wrapped up and finished. And slowly but surely, a lot of things are kind of undisclosed, and a lot of things are being slowly released. A lot of information, a lot of movie stuff, a lot of comic book stuff, mostly
Okay.
superhero stuff and
Yeah.
all that. But nonetheless, pretty cool. So first thing I wanted to talk about is some of the cool stuff, the stuff that we nerd out about. Andor.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Star Wars, for those of you that don't know what Andor is, and they're like, "What the hell is that?" I'm just throwing around names. It is a Star Wars series, I
Yeah.
believe, right? It's a Star Wars series, and it will be coming out pretty soon, I believe, in the fall. And it is if anyone has seen Star Wars Rogue One,
Mhm.
a Star Wars story, this is the story about Cassian. Cassian was the male lead in
Yeah.
that story, and this takes place a few years before that movie, and it essentially showcases his life and how he came to be a spy and a rebel. Um, and of course, everyone knows that what happens to him in Rogue One in the movie. And to be honest, it's one of my favorite Star Wars films
Yeah.
currently to date. I thought it was fantastic. I thought the ending was great.
Yeah.
Where like people know what I'm talking about. Those that have seen the film, those who have seen Rogue One, when Vader comes out
The hallway scene.
and the
Yeah.
hallway
Yeah.
scene when Vader comes out, that's the Vader we've all been dying and waiting to see, man. Like that was amazing. I got chills when I saw that. And I went back and I saw the movie again just for that last part.
Yeah, I've actually watched that scene multiple times on YouTube.
Yeah,
Just check it out.
It's
Yeah.
freaking
Especially,
fantastic.
just to tie in something else, but we'll go back to it. But,
Yeah.
the hallway scene. I watched it a bunch after Luke had his hallway scene with the Dark Troopers.
That's
And it was
right.
kind of a mirror. On
That is
yeah.
right. Good connection.
Yeah, but this Rogue One was very good. I liked it a lot. I remember watching it. I actually had have the book that ties into it on my shelf over here, and I actually finished the book in the theater right before the movie started.
No kidding.
I finished the last chapter, and I was like, boom, and the movie started.
Wow, look at that.
I wanted
Okay,
to
so
tie into it. Yeah,
it worked out perfectly.
yeah, it did.
That's
It was
cool,
good.
man.
Yeah, so I'm excited for the series for multiple reasons. First, when I heard about it, I was like, like, what's the point? Like, we know this guy, spoilers. It's been 6 years since the movie came out, but
right, what happens?
Yeah,
the
guy gets killed. It's like,
however, his story, and I gotta admit, his story was pretty interesting.
Yeah, like, well, he's he's a child when he first starts fighting for the rebellion. He's I'm pretty sure he has like this orphan like backstory where his family gets killed by the Empire. I think that's kind of what they're alluding to.
Yeah,
and he's, but I think in the movie he says he's been in this fight since he was 6 or something like that.
Right.
So
yeah,
pretty much no childhood to have, and then just kind of fighting his whole life for this cause.
And his character really shows that. I mean, again, if you haven't seen Rogue One, I suggest you watch it. Like I said, it is my favorite Star Wars film. Aside from
I was gonna say, wait a minute.
Well, aside from
the original
the
trilogy,
main storyline with the Skywalker storyline, and all that stuff. I have my favorites when it comes to that. But any of the side projects, this is honestly my favorite one because his character, it's a different take on it. It's not this action kind of adventure kind of thing. It's a little bit more specific. It's a little bit more nuanced.
Yeah.
They're talking about very, very specific things.
It's very like Saving Private Ryan.
It is. Yeah. It's like that, where it's like it's a suicide mission. It's a suicide squad.
Is the Data.
Yeah, and it's the Data. It's about the Death Star. It's about how they knew about the Death Star weaknesses. So it's a very important.
I think they did a pretty good job. I know people like kind of gave them a little bit of flack for it, but even though it was kind of like the first kind of go around with their de-aging technology,
right?
I think it actually came out pretty good. Tarkin wasn't like the greatest, but really. I think like the whole idea of less is more is good. So like with Leia, I think because it was like
Light touch.
one line and one little glimpse, it worked
Right.
really
It was
well.
what, maybe
It wasn't
10 seconds.
wasn't as bad as like the first glimpse we got of Luke Skywalker in Mandalorian.
Right,
That
that
was
was
kind
different.
of way off.
Yeah, that was different. The mouth was weird.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you notice him when they did in Book of Boba Fett, whenever Luke was speaking, they took the camera off him.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, because
like,
they knew. Yeah.
They got the face right. They're like, all right, well, we can't get the mouth.
Yeah,
moving,
when he's
so.
when he's talking, we gotta cut to somewhere else.
Yeah.
We haven't gotten that right, so I understand. But no, getting back to Andor,
Yeah.
the character Cassian I thought was pretty interesting. He was a very specific. He was like, ride or die spy, man. Like he was all in for the cause.
Mhm.
Like sacrifice whatever you need to sacrifice. Do what you need to do. Kill who you need to kill. He was that character.
Yeah.
He was ready to double cross people. He was ready to smile in their faces and stab them in the back.
Yeah.
He was that guy. So they made his character very, very interesting, and I wanted to know more about him, especially since they kind of led little breadcrumbs about his past.
Yeah.
And it was a bit of a mystery. And I was like, this guy just seems there's more to him. So I'm glad that they went ahead and it's a good move that they're expanding on that with the Andor series.
For those who haven't said his name, Diego Luna is.
That's right,
Cassian
Diego Luna.
Andor,
Yes, he plays Cassian.
Who's been around a little bit now.
Oh yeah.
Kind of hitting a blank on where I've seen him. I know I've seen him around, and he's always been a good
Y
actor.
tu mamá también.
Yeah, I should know that because that's a movie I studied in film history.
There you go. That's a very early movie that he
which
did.
is a very good movie.
That's right.
I would recommend it.
Yeah. But yeah, Andor looks great. It's very different from any of the other Star Wars, type properties. This one is a more political suspense thriller. It's very cerebral. It's about double crossing. It's about politics.
Yeah.
It's about spycraft and that kind of thing. So I think people that are into that might appreciate that, but it's just going to be in space.
Yeah, and I think it's going to probably tie into that moral ambiguity that goes along with revolutions and rebellions,
right?
And doing like what is the right thing, and what is
right.
Who is innocent?
What does oppression look like, and what does rebellion look
like? And who are you going through to get to your goal? And is what you're doing right? Because a lot of people probably think that when they're doing it,
right?
Like who someone stands in your way that might just be doing their job.
Yeah.
And then you have to kill them. Like,
Like, what are you willing to do? Like, how big is this?
Where's your humanity going in this aspect? What's the
right? Is it worth losing your humanity?
Yeah, right. Yeah, and going in the technical aspects, I think it's really cool that they're getting rid of the volume for this. Which is, if those who don't know, in the last several years, they've invented this technology where it's just this giant curved digital screen where they project environments and backdrops and settings into that instead of using a green screen.
The time of green screen or blue screen is over.
Yeah.
They just have
it's getting there. It needs some work.
It's moving towards not being the technology is changing now.
Yeah.
So they have this kind of semicircle set, and instead of a green screen or a blue screen or anything like that, it's just a giant LED wall with great resolution and fidelity. And they just go ahead and display whatever background they want. Mm-hmm. If it's in a different world, if it's in in the Grand Canyon, whatever it is. The only problem is that certain productions know how to use it properly and some don't.
Yeah, like for instance, like Mandalorian was the first to use it extensively, and it worked very well. But then you have Obi-Wan Kenobi, which kind of was hindered by its limitations.
They used it as a crutch.
Relied on it, and they say it was the pandemic and all that, but there's plenty of productions out there that shot through the pandemic and didn't rely on any of that.
So it suffered. I wasn't a big fan of it. Kenobi suffered because of that, and hopefully they learned their lesson. It was just people that don't even know the other side of filmmaking, that aren't so technical like you and me, that can spot certain things. People that don't even have that foresight or knowledge. We're even complaining. Just regular casual viewers was just like, why does it look so cheap?
It kind of felt like they were like, it kind of feels off. Like what's
they knew something was off, and I've heard a ton of comments, and I had some friends in the chat that were just regular casual viewers. They were like, it seems like a cheap CW type of series. Like, I don't understand what's going on. It's Star Wars. So some people were pissed, but it did suffer because of it.
So I like they're going back to a practical set, and hopefully they use practical effects too, because that'd be pretty That would really be good for Star Wars because that's kind of where it was, built on.
I hope
But,
so. When it comes to the creatures, I hope they do.
like a
More.
mix, right? Like,
Yeah, of course, there's
yeah.
gonna have to be a mix, especially when they go out in space and
Well, like
all that stuff.
like back in Stranger Things was a mix between practical
Right,
effects and
right,
some CGI.
right. I
Yeah.
just don't hope that they, don't use CGI as a crutch all the time, and
Yeah.
just kind of work with practical and start from there. And if it, if you
Yeah.
need to fill in the blanks, use CG.
Like
That's
you
that's
can
my
kind of
opinion.
actually like a little bit of a change, but we'll go back to as
Yeah,
far as the CGI is you can kind of see that over reliance on like the She-Hulk trailers.
yeah.
And like this over reliance on CGI and it looks just like campy
All of
and
it,
shitty.
all of
Yeah.
it. Yeah, like all of it just looks like a big just CGI movie. Like
Yeah.
all of it. It's just like, all right, well, did Pixar do this? It's like, what's going on?
All right, so what we got next?
All right, so moving on, we've got Black Panther: Wakanda Forever. The trailer came out just a couple of days ago. It
Mhm.
looks fantastic. I saw it and I got goosebumps, man.
Yeah.
It looks great. There's a lot of questions, a lot of mystery. Of course, this is just a teaser, so they're getting everyone's palate wet with this drop, and it's right out of Comic-Con. Um, but there's a lot going on with the imagery. They haven't confirmed anything just yet, so they just threw this out there to kind of get the anticipation,
Yeah,
and
get the hype going.
get the hype going, get the fans excited. They haven't spoken about how they're addressing Chadwick Boseman's death.
Yeah. We know they are though, because by the trailer we can see there's kind
By
of
the
a
trailer,
memorial going
right?
on.
There's a
It's got
funeral
that, kinda got
procession.
that Tony Stark mural,
Right.
like from Spider-Man Far
Right.
From Home.
Yeah, they do
Yeah,
something
yeah,
similar. Right. They have like a mural on the side of a
Yeah.
building there. They have a funeral progression where everyone's wearing white. So that there's a loss. People are sad.
Yeah.
But they're also
Well,
celebrating his life.
They have to address it because
Yeah.
like how are you going to pass the mantle?
Right.
And then how is that going to work too? Is the
Right.
question. And there's a lot of like theories going around of like, is Shuri actually going to be Black Panther? Or is it going to be somebody else?
Right. Is it going to
Killmonger going to come back?
Are they going to revive
yeah.
Killmonger? So there's a lot of speculation, a lot of fan theories are out there, which is fun. I've seen some of the discussions online. It all looks very, very fun. But yeah, man, it's a big mystery. I can't wait for the big reveal. I also saw, and I'm very excited about this. They're bringing in Namor the Submariner, which is Marvel's Aquaman, essentially. So that's pretty interesting. And the fact that they're tying Namor to a specific culture, which is the Mayan Aztec culture, I thought was fantastic.
I didn't know that.
Yes, they did, because originally that wasn't the case, but now
Yeah.
they're tying that in. So I'm like, oh, this is fantastic. You have these two kingdoms. You have Wakanda, and then you have the Atlanteans, and they're I think they're moving in the direction of Atlantis being some kind of a Mayan
subculture.
Yeah, like a
Mayan
civilization that went
broke
under.
off, or
Like this broke off of the Pangea and went under. And the iconography and the costumes and all that. And I was looking at it and I was just like, oh, that looks freaking amazing. That looks so dope. I love it. I absolutely love it. I love what they're doing with it. Ryan Coogler again is behind the helm on this. And I think he had a lot to say as far as the the diversity and the kind of the cultural direction that they're going with this sequel. So yeah, man, I have a ton of questions. I'm participating in the fan theories online, but it looks fun. And I cannot wait. There's a lot of surprises from what they've said, a lot of speculation. They might bring in another big villain. Namor is, of course, an anti-hero. So he kind of plays both parts. He can be a villain and a hero at the same time. So I don't know if he's going to be the villain or if there is actually another villain. And from what I've been hearing, the buzz is going around that Dr. Doom, which is, one of Marvel's top villains and has been completely ignored up until now. Dr. Doom is going to be making some kind of a cameo somewhere between phase 5 and 8.
Well, somewhere. I think that's kind of going to be the big bad of Secret Wars, because that's how it is in the comics, right?
That is correct.
Now would be a good time to have that come in,
and they should do it little by little, not in one foul swoop, or
because
not.
we got to deal with Kang first, and then
right, which is another big problem. And Kang is more Thanos level.
But I read a theory online that Namor is like you said, it's kind of like a like a fake out villain, like an anti-hero.
He is an anti-hero
who's being manipulated by Doctor Doom,
right,
to kind of cause rift between the two kingdoms. And this would be like the way Marvel is going to introduce Doctor Doom and kind of like throw him out there and be like, oh yeah, kind of like how they did with Thanos,
right,
in the first Avengers, and
right, because you saw Thanos, they were building to that. You saw him in the background.
Well, he gave Loki the scepter and all that, and,
right,
made him like go out and
right. And it was manipulating. He was the puppet master.
Because we're gonna get Secret Wars in a few years, and
it's gonna happen.
For Avengers, it took it was 4 for Avengers, but for to even get Thanos to be the big bad was 10 years.
10 years.
So to get Secret Wars and have the big bad for that, and we only have a few years to do that. So they got to kind of like get the ball rolling, and I think they're gonna probably do that with maybe Loki season 2.
Yeah.
These next we got She-Hulk it's gonna have Charlie Cox as Daredevil.
That's right,
and
which they're bringing back.
Yeah,
they're bringing back Daredevil.
Yeah,
it's fantastic.
So he kind of has a little spin cameo without his face, but you can see his costume.
And by the way, listen, let's take a moment to give props to Daredevil, because that was actually, I think, was it the first? I think that was the first Marvel Studios very successful series.
It was
before Jessica Jones.
Yeah, with Netflix, it was Daredevil went first, and it was Jessica Jones.
Right.
And it was Iron Fist, Punisher, and then Defenders.
Yeah, that's right.
And so they each had a season.
Luke Cage,
they had a season 2 of each of those shows, I believe. So,
right.
And it was there was a lot of fan they're going about like, hey, we got to bring this back. When
it did great. It's not like they did horribly.
Yeah. When Disney got the rights back to the streaming of that, the fans were like, well, what are you gonna do? You can't just
you can't just stop.
Yeah, because before they were part of the canon. It was part of the whole the universe.
That's right. They were part of that universe officially.
And they couldn't quite tell you that, but they kind of alluded to it. They had they would say the man in the green guy that caused havoc in New York.
They would say
but the first instance we've had without the trailers coming out is Kingpin and and Hawkeye.
That's right.
So
you saw kind of
with,
double dipping.
The great Vincent D'Onofrio coming in. And being a total badass.
Yeah, that's right.
Getting punked on by a 16-year-old girl.
Yeah. I mean, he plays a great Kingpin. Vincent is a veteran. He's a method guy.
Oh, yeah.
He goes
going back to Full Metal Jacket.
Yeah, pretty much. So no, I'd say
his time on Law and Order.
Yeah, so. and he still wants to continue.
And he played one of my favorite versions of Thor in Adventures in Babysitting. So
I forgot about that. That's right, he did, man. I forgot about that. Very good. But no, he still wants to play the character. He's kind of he
posted something on Instagram where it was it kind of it's subtle but obvious, where it just says he's back to work, and he's kind of doing this private pile look in the camera, and it's he's bald, and it's totally he's filming Kingpin.
right, of course. Yeah, it's so not
they're
not Jacket
they're
Part
not
2.
done with him. But I wonder where he's gonna go too with his character. So
yeah.
If Dr. Doom's gonna be the big bad, what are they gonna do with the Kingpin? Will Kingpin come in and help?
He's third tier, man.
Will he be a new Avenger?
No. He's street level, man. He's not.
I imagine he might come in with Spider-Man, or maybe
Spider-Man and Kingpin. Yeah, they've tussled a few times.
They all share that same mythos: Deadpool, Spider-Man, and Daredevil with Kingpin, right? So,
yeah, they do.
Yeah,
they all have problems with him, and Punisher.
And I know they're trying to get Deadpool into the MCU.
That's right.
Which he technically already is, because he did that little spot with Korg. So
that's right. They're trying to figure out a way to do that. That was pretty interesting. That was pretty interesting. But they're still trying to figure out a way
to have Deadpool without being rated R, breaking the fourth wall. So
yeah. I'm just more interested in how they're going to bring Deadpool in through some kind of secret war incursion or something.
Alvin says the X-Men are coming.
Yeah, I know they're coming. I know they're coming. I just want their method of how they orchestrate that whole thing. I want it to be good, and I want it to make sense. Please don't shoehorn this thing or come up with some last minute MacGuffin to figure out how to stuff them in there. No, don't do that, please. Just put some effort into it. Make it smart.
Well, I know they're doing Fantastic Four again.
I don't know.
And
they are doing it.
Feige said it won't be an origin story.
No, that's great. They don't need it.
They're just going to come out guns blazing.
I'm okay with that. That's
But apparently,
fantastic.
John Krasinski will not be Mr. Fantastic.
Which is kind of sad.
Yeah,
I liked.
that was
I
kind of
liked
like
him.
this fan cast basically, and they put him in there to kind of, tout on that.
Well, my question is, why not? Why not have him continue? I mean, they've already started going down this path. Why not? He did great as Mr.
It could be a
Fantastic.
misdirect. People are like, oh yeah, he's not going to be good.
They lie. They lie to us all the time. This is not the first time.
Yeah.
They're going to lie to us all the time. I liked him as Mr. Fantastic. I thought he had the right poise, the right look, all of it. I don't think he did a bad job.
But, I mean, he's still kind of fucked up with the. Excuse my language. I don't know how this works on live.
we can't say those words on Facebook.
Yeah, it's dirty, naughty words. Where he kind of ruined the whole Black Bolt introduction. He's like, "Oh yeah, this is the guy that uses his mouth."
Let's just be clear here. He didn't. He was not the writer of this. He's just an actor.
Yeah.
The actor just recites.
Well, not
the
John
lines.
Krasinski. The character, man, is Mr. Fantastic.
I know, but listen, man, it's just fight the writers, fight the director, and fight the producer. Okay, that's where I go with that. Yes, it could have been better. I would have appreciated in that little. I know we're going off on a tangent, but we're gonna get back on track.
That's the whole point. Yeah.
But honestly, in that little scene, and the multiverse of madness, I would have appreciated if there was a bit more of a fight amongst all of those guys. I wanted to see Mr. Fantastic do some crazy stuff. I wanted to see Black Bolt do some crazy stuff.
It was a little lackluster. Yeah,
it was very lackluster. It was like we didn't get to see them go to town. I mean, we saw Captain Carter and then Captain Marvel, the two captains. Actually, we only saw the two captains kind of like go a little back and forth.
Wanda just kind of like.
But that was
waved your hand, and they were done.
But that was it, man. So I wanted a little bit more of a fight. I mean,
they kind of hyped that movie up to be this big kind of like No Way Home event, and then just kind of fell through a little bit.
Right. Yeah. That's I wanted to see more No Way Home kind of stuff. And it just it didn't work out. But that's my issue with that. The writing, and who knows. Because there's a lot of stakeholders when it comes to making these kind of films. So you have a ton of producers and a ton of people saying, okay, add this, take this out, don't do that. So at the end of the day, they have the last say.
That's the politics of the industry.
That's the politics. That's the honesty behind it. So a lot of the times, their decisions aren't always the best looking ones.
They're thinking about the money, not the
well, I don't know what they're thinking about. They're thinking about a bunch of other things, but yeah.
It's not like Disney doesn't have.
Sometimes it just doesn't work for us. Yeah. So that's the reality of it. All right.
Moving
on. Okay, but yes, Wakanda Forever, fantastic, man. If you haven't seen the trailer, watch it. I loved it. But yeah, a lot of speculation, man. I can't wait till that comes out. So last thing I wanted to talk about here, and we have two more things to talk about. Mm-hmm. There's this one called 13 Lives. So this is a new one that I just read about. I haven't seen a trailer for this just yet. There's just a couple of pictures, but this one is about, I'm not too sure if you guys remember this, but back in 2018, there was a youth soccer team in Thailand that was stuck in some caves. Yeah, they went spelunking, and I remember this was a big thing for about 2 weeks. There were 13 lives. It was the soccer team of kids and their assistant coach that got stuck in the caves, and it was due to like some flooding or something that happened. It was like some underground river that flooded it, and they got stuck there, and they were stuck there for 18 days.
Right.
18 days, and two rescuers that tried to go in died. Yeah, trying to get them out. Yeah. So Ron Howard is directing this film. It looks very interesting. Ron Howard is great at a lot of these like true story type of
Apollo
films.
13.
Yeah, Apollo 13, those type of films. Yeah. So this one seemed very, very interesting. It's a great story. I knew it was going to become a movie when I first saw it on.
Are they gonna talk about how Elon Musk tried to go in there too?
Yeah, no, there's a ton of people that tried to help. Yeah, I remember Elon Musk had something going on. But
is that who Viggo Mortensen's playing? Is Elon Musk?
I don't know. No, he's not playing him. But there was like this super expert SAS. They're kind of like the Navy SEAL, like British Navy SEAls. Yeah. So the SAS team from England, went in. There was like three or four divers that went in and got all the kids out, everyone out safely, along with two U.S. Special Forces people that went in there too, man.
Right.
So it's a very, very interesting story. Yeah, and I'm interested in seeing that. I don't watch just Star Wars and comic book films all the time. I watch some real nice dramas. But yeah, there's a couple of people here. Like I said, Ron Howard, fantastic, A-list director. And we got a couple of stars here. We got Viggo Mortensen, Colin Farrell, and Joel Edgerton.
Okay, yeah.
So that's a very, very dope cast.
Love Colin Farrell.
Yeah,
like one of my favorite movies of his is like In Bruges. It's
yeah, I think everybody loves him.
Joel Edgerton though is he really surprised me with Obi-Wan. He did so well as Owen Lars, and
yes,
he's kind of one of the highlights in that series.
Yes, he did. Very well played.
Yeah,
very, very well played. He didn't get a whole lot of screen time. I wish he did.
Yeah. Which is a big contrast to like how he played the original, because he was so young back then.
Right.
He didn't have much lines, and he comes in and he's like this very
he's owning it.
Yeah.
He's owning it. I love him, man. Yeah. Awesome.
Which to me is now the Owen Lars, on top.
He is, he is Owen Lars.
Because the old one was kind of like, the unit doesn't work. What are you trying to do?
Yeah, he was like this old curmudgeon. And I was like, you're not interesting at all. But Joel kind of actually in Obi-Wan, that was one of the things that I liked. I remember that scene where they had like weapons and like they knew that people were coming from
that was all Baruch. He was like, badass.
So they were they were just like they got into.
He was like, what do you have here?
Right. They went into like it was like Jason Bourne. Like they switched modes and they were like, okay, we're going to war.
Yeah.
So that was actually pretty cool. But yeah, for me, that's who they are now.
So yeah, it looks interesting.
Lars
it sounds
family.
Interesting. Do we have any kind of idea when it's going to come out? Is it going to be like? Is it still like in the youthful stages?
I believe it's going to be coming out pretty soon, near the end of the summer, early fall. But
is it a series or a movie?
No, it's just a movie.
Okay.
Yeah, theatrical releases. So, but yeah, looks pretty interesting. 13 Lives. This is seems like a pretty good drama. So I'm going to be checking it out. All right, so last bit of industry news. Did we? Oh no, we spoke about Batgirl already.
No, we didn't. No.
Okay, so let's get into Batgirl.
Yeah. So usually I'm the one that has all these news items, but kind of failed on.
I came ready.
Yeah, Ellison got the ball rolling on that. But the big one I want to talk about is Batgirl being canceled, which I didn't realize was so far ahead into its production, basically almost finished.
Yeah.
And what I gathered, it's a small budget film that was kind of produced as a direct-to-streaming movie taking place in the DC universe. And long story short, Discovery kind of came in and bought Warner Brothers, which owns HBO. So bought them out.
Yeah.
And for whatever reason, there's multiple like theories going out there. It's either the test screenings didn't do well, but then there's conflicting reports. Some say they did, and then whatnot.
Right.
And then there's the fact that the head of the company basically doesn't like the whole streaming environment. They want to go straight to theatrical.
Right.
And this was made for streaming, and they thought that it wasn't going in whatever direction they wanted it to go, so they canned it.
Right.
It was basically 90% done.
Yeah.
When you get the test screenings, your movie's basically ready to go, except for whatever backup shoots they need to do.
Typically, they just do that to kind of like test screenings are just for to gauge.
Yeah,
what the tone and the storyline is going.
Oh, this is
so they
working,
can do last minute edit. Last minute editing and
reshoots or
some stuff.
whatever.
Right.
But they opted to not even like show it. They just said
they shelved it completely.
They said it's
to be continued.
We don't want it.
Yeah.
And this movie had I know it had Michael Keaton as Batman in it. And,
that's right. That's right.
I'm sure it tied in more with the bigger DC universe that they're trying to build over these many years,
right?
And
which works to my theory, and I have a theory about why they did what they did. So I think it's really because they're not sure on how they're going to approach the DC cinematic universe.
Yeah.
Right. So far, the DC cinematic universe has kind of been all over the place.
It has,
right? It completely has. It's not.
Hit or miss.
It's not. It's not like Marvel Studios, where you have Kevin Feige. Like he's owning all of that.
Maestro.
He's the maestro behind it, and nothing gets done without going through him.
Yeah.
And they have a plan. They have a timeline. They have a plan. These are the movies. These are the series, and they're all in the same universe. They're all in the same world. We're gonna have characters that kind of pop in and cross over. he's treating the Marvel Cinematic Universe as like the comic books, where you have this plot line and you have this kind of world that everyone kind of shares, and he's putting that out into the public. Now, DC has not been doing that. So any intellectual property, any movie, any series, it's standalone. The Flash series has nothing to do with the cinematic universe. Arrow has nothing to do with the cinematic universe. So you've had these one-offs, and you can see that with the Robert Pattinson's Batman. Has nothing to do with Henry Cavill's Superman or Wonder
because they
Woman.
don't know where the hell this thing's going.
Right,
So
they have no idea where they're
Yeah.
going. So there is no plan. There is no Kevin Feige
yeah,
in DC, which actually back in the day they tried to get Christopher Nolan to be that person,
okay.
and he said no because he doesn't want to be pigeonholed
Yeah, he wants to do his
to just do
creative
that.
stuff,
Now,
yeah.
he wants to go ahead and have the freedom and creativity to
Yeah.
shoot and do whatever movies he wants to do. So they don't have a Kevin Feige type person overseeing the DC cinematic universe. So I think what they're doing is a smart thing. I think that they need to figure out how they're going to approach the Justice League, whether they want to continue in that direction. Because remember, you still have a couple of lingering movies that still need to come out.
Yeah.
You have the Aquaman 2 movie
Right.
that is just about almost finished as
Yeah.
well. You have the Flash movie,
Which has been done.
which has been
But they're
done,
kind of figuring out
and
how
they're
to-
figuring that out. And Michael Keaton
Yeah.
is supposed to be now.
That's a
That's
big part of it.
right,
Yeah.
and they're treating that like a Spider-Man No Way Home because Flash actually breaks into the multiverse.
Yeah.
And he sees
It's like a flashpoint kind of.
he
thing,
goes into a
so,
flashpoint,
yeah.
right, and then he goes into a multiverse, and he gets in contact with Michael Keaton's Batman.
Yeah.
So that's opening up some things. So they aren't sure what their plan is. So I guess it's smart for them to take Batgirl and shelve it for now until they can figure that out.
They basically, long story short, they're like, oh, it doesn't really fit with what our vision is.
Correct.
And now they have
They don't want to. They don't want to be preemptive and
now
back
they have
themselves
new
into a
heads
corner.
in the studios and new leadership going on.
Yeah.
and
It's gonna take
there
time.
might be some bigger brains up there who are going, well, this obviously hasn't been working very well, so let's
Right.
maybe reel it back.
Let's
a little
change
bit.
it. Let's change it. Let's
And
do a little
let's not
something.
go for the whole subscriber count. Let's try to build a mythos,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
and now they are trying to figure out what to do with Ezra Miller and his Flash, because that dude is
He's messing up.
Yeah.
That's bad publicity, man.
Yeah.
And you know what happens with bad publicity is like we don't want that. We
When
don't want that around
when
here.
you have a whole movie that's been finished with such big names going on in it, it's kind of a hard thing to do.
Yeah, I know. So they need to figure that out. And I don't think that's a bad thing. Batgirl got canceled. Who knows? It might show up later down the line, or it might get remixed later down the line. So who knows?
All right.
Yeah.
So we're doing this live, but guys, I gotta take a piss. So I'll be back in like a couple minutes.
You gotta take a break.
You can look at Ellison's. He's not wearing the New York hat, so you can't make fun of him.
I'm not wearing the New York hat right now. All right, but we're just gonna pause. So stay with us. I got these things too, so yeah. So you're good.
Yeah, so we got Mr. Boston over here himself in the stream now.
Called us right in the middle of the stream while we were taking a bit of a break.
You know, you can hop on our stream yard and give you a little guest if you want. I don't know how that would work.
We would have to send him the link.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, he could do it from his phone.
Might be some metallic interference with the nose ring there, but.
Technically, we can.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure they can hear him too.
Yeah. Well, yeah. You gotta get to the point, bud. We're on.
We got to get back to the show. We got to get back to the show. Otherwise, we're just gonna roast you on live, man.
Got levels there. I can send you a link if you want to join our stream, but otherwise, I'm gonna have to hang up. But all right, everybody. All right, now I got this ringing in my ear. Like,
yeah. Oh my god.
Yeah. So how do I send them? Do I just share?
So yeah, share. Oh no, not share. I'm sorry. Invite.
All right.
There you go.
Copy the clipfulboard.
Yeah, and then you
send it over to Mr. Man in Bostonianville. Hopefully he has some things to say.
There you go. Yeah, and Aaron called too.
Aaron on my phone there.
Yeah, he called as well.
Okay. Well, maybe we'll give him. Maybe we'll do a little guest spot moment.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
All right,
man.
so we are.
All right, so we're on to movie talk now.
Movie/TV.
Yeah, we're done with the news.
Yeah.
All right, so now we're into the movie talk.
The news is news, and that's the weather.
All right, so first thing, let's start off with the two movies that we both saw just recently.
Okay.
All right, Thor: Love and Thunder, and then we'll get to Nope.
Okay.
And then there's a couple other stuff that we both saw separately. All right.
Yeah.
But let's start off with those two.
All right.
And what are your thoughts on Thor: Love and Thunder?
Okay. So I was really excited for this.
Okay. You were.
It wasn't. No. Like like just going, through the moments.
Okay.
I wanted to see it out in Paris. But like I said, the whole I don't want to see it in French, right?
Right.
And thinking back on it, it's like it would just be hilarious to see.
It would be hilarious.
Chris Hemsworth speaking like French,
yes.
and not even having any subtitles and trying to figure out what
little
he's saying.
miss me. Like what?
So I was disappointed because there's a big theater out there that's pretty old and famous that I was hoping to go see a movie at, but I just didn't. Yeah. But if I'm just guessing what they're saying, it's not going to be.
It's not going to be fun.
For me.
Yeah.
So I had to wait, and that was the first movie I saw when I came back. It was a couple days after I came back. I went to the theater because that's kind of like my home away from home is the theater. It's where I can get away and go see things, and just kind of like chill out and forget that the outside world exists. Which was part of the reason why this trip was so great. So I went and saw that, and I liked it a lot, except it kind of like fell flat for me towards the end, and I don't think they fleshed out Christian Bale's Gore very well. He did such a great job in playing him with what they gave him. I do joke he's kind of like the Voldemort of the villains.
Kind of is.
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah.
But the Gore the God Butcher didn't do too much butching of the gods.
Butchering?
Butching. Freudian slip there.
Yeah.
Butchering of the gods.
Yeah.
But let's see here. We got some people. Hello, people.
Hello. Oh no, this is going crazy now. There's a bunch of people.
We got 6. It's like a freaking record.
That's fantastic. I love it. All right.
Yeah.
We should do more live shows.
I like. Okay, here's what I liked about it.
Yeah.
Which was just the psychiatry of Thor still dealing with his PTSD and his depression and
correct
and
him getting into shape
and his anxiety.
I like that beginning part.
You notice the Forrest Gump callback there, where he's wearing the big hat and he has the beard. And hair
a little bit. Okay, I saw that. Okay, I saw. And then he's exercising. And
it was total Forrest Gump moment.
That's
there.
true.
I totally caught it.
Okay, I didn't put
the
that
psychiatry
together.
of him coming to terms with using humor to kind of mask his pain and using it as
Very
a
deep stuff.
crutch and
Very deep
you know,
stuff.
not acknowledging the okayness to have pain.
Using it as the deflector. He's
Yeah.
deflecting.
And not you know, and I thought that was well done, and I think it was perfect that Taika Waititi was the person behind that humor.
Yeah.
To kind of shove that in your face.
Yeah.
But I think it was done in a way where, because Marvel has kind of like taken this road where it's just all kind of happy and go lucky and campy, and it's kind of like not so serious type humor, that it kind of just went over people's heads.
Yeah.
Kind of in a way, if you go back to like reaction videos, like in the theater with when he chops off Thanos' head in the beginning of Endgame, and he's like, "Oh, like, what did you do?" And he's like, "Oh, in for the head."
Yeah.
And people just laugh. And it's actually a very serious moment, because he's trying to come to terms with his mistakes and his failures.
Right.
And that was that moment was what that was representing.
Yeah.
And people were just like, it's just funny
yeah,
line.
like pay attention to his like his character arc is very, very interesting.
So people haven't really taken Thor very seriously since Ragnarok. Right. And I think what a lot of it is just him coming to terms with his failures and his PTSD and his anxieties and his depression.
Yeah.
And using humor as a crutch.
Right.
You know, that's kind of like it's a common theme amongst extraordinary people with using.
That is very true.
Yeah.
That is very true. I mean, if you look at Thor's, journey, I mean, he's kind of lost. He's lost everyone, man.
He's done a lot,
He's done a lot.
He's
old. Lost and the thing about it is that he's this god. He's like 1,500 years old. And he's essentially there. Like, he can't save everybody. Yeah. The people closest to him, his father, his sister, his brother,
3 times.
Everyone has died, even his girlfriend. Everyone, man. Yeah. So that's a lot. And him being the god of thunder, and even when he's like arrogant,
the shoulder of responsibility.
I think him being arrogant and boastful again is masking what's really happening inside. Him gaining weight was a little bit of showing like him giving up.
Literally, him gaining weight was him shouldering all that weight on his
he is. He's carrying all of that weight.
So I think that was a very physical metaphor.
Yeah. Man.
And honestly, I kind of like think it ties into the whole idea of this idea of like masculinity, and how we have, like, in society, we have to kind of like hide
we have to be that we have to be this kind of hero, and then not show any vulnerabilities or anything,
which really just causes a lot of problems in the long run. And I think
because it's not actually human, it's not how you deal with
getting
stuff.
over those, like getting through that subtlety of that kind of stuff is a very good, I think, a very big thing that Taika is taking initiative of, and he does that in a lot of his other movies too. But it's going into the movie more, I think there's a few things that kind of were like a little overdone. Like, I thought the goats were hilarious, but after a while, it's just like, come on. Like,
we got the joke the first few times, but then it was just like, really? Yeah, that's true.
Like, it's like the bad parts, like gore not being used enough. I think they could have had longer runtime, and maybe it's because Taika likes those shorter runtime movies. It might be a thing. But maybe like 15 minutes or so more, and showing a little bit of a montage of the gods falling, instead of just like showing like a Tony Stark moment where they're in the computer and showing the dead bodies.
That's nonsense.
Like that.
I didn't like that.
The big one that was in the snow, like that would have been really cool to see.
That would have been
Sif,
cool.
Like, show Sif fighting and like losing her arm and whatnot. And that god that looks like a crazy freaking monster, and then like Thor's like, oh, he's like one of the greatest guys.
No, honestly, like him and Thor are very, very close. Like the big
like show more of the beginning where Gore kills the first one. Like, show more of that type of stuff.
Now, in all honesty, they so the actual comic book series, Gore the God Butcher, it's kind of like a little detective story. Like, it's a little bit mystery,
like a whodunit.
It's kind of like a whodunit, because Thor is like maybe a few steps behind Gore, and Gore's way ahead of him. So Thor is like seeing all of these dead bodies, and Gore really butchers the majority of the gods out there, like a lot of them, and Thor is just kind of trying to catch up, and he sees all the dead bodies and all the aftermath of these massacres and all this stuff.
Getting there too late,
He's getting there too late, so he's trying to figure out ways, like, how am I going to get this guy? Like, I got to beat him. And the thing about it is that when Gore kills a god, for some gods, he does absorb some of their powers.
Okay.
So he gets even more powerful as he goes.
Is that because the sword of what's the sword
Correct.
called?
The all black. That's the necro sword.
The necro sword. Yeah,
Right,
which is
right.
corrupting him.
Right. That's correct.
Yeah, which
Yeah.
I think they didn't tout on that enough too, because
They did not.
at the end, and if you have to read after the fact to kind of like get into the psychology of the character,
They
that's
didn't.
when they don't hammer it home enough.
They don't. Yeah.
Because I was kind of thrown off. I'm like, well, what's going on? Because they just fought this whole battle, and then all of a sudden he's willing to give up his kid to Thor.
Okay. So disclaimer here. We're talking about the last act.
The last act. Yeah. Spoiler. I mean,
Spoiler.
It's been a month. It's been out for a month.
Spoiler for all you live people.
Yeah.
They just popped in, and then we're just giving shit away. All right. If you haven't seen the movie, this but this is we're gonna give away some shit.
So the whole reason for Gore's motivations is because he's this devout follower of a god, and he's going through some kind of a trauma on his world, or some calamity happened where they're all
a calamity happened, and
he's
the last of his kind.
Everybody else dies, and his daughter's the last one to die, and his daughter dies in his arms, and so but then he goes on this mission and finds the god, and the god's like, yeah, you thought you would have everlasting peace or whatever.
Yeah.
And then he's like, well, we gave our whole lives for you. And he's just like, I don't care. I'm just eating berries and hanging out with forest creatures.
Yeah.
And then
pretty much.
And then they had just killed the wielder of the necro sword.
Right.
And then
they should have elaborated that.
They should have a little bit more. But I got it. I got it in the theater for me because
I get it. Yeah.
We're a different breed. We kind of understand things. But the sword obviously has a power of its own, and kind of called to Gore's hatred in the moment, and he picks it up and he kills the god.
Yeah.
But his whole motivation is because he lost his daughter, and he wants to bring. So he's on this mission to kill the gods and get to, which is eternity.
Correct.
Which
is eternity is personified as an actual being.
Yeah. And that's the end of it, where he gets there and Thor loses and Jane loses. They all lose.
Yeah.
And he's dying because the necro sword kills its wielder because it's a corruptor.
Yes.
But in that last moment, he sees the power of love between Thor and Jane, and I thought in that moment, spoilers, that
power of love.
He would lose the news, which is another Christian Bale great movie, which is American Psycho. So that ties in very well. I'm just seeing Norman Bates kill the guy in my head. Yeah, so I thought he was gonna, take that moment to save Jane Foster, and instead,
so there's a lot of things. All right, so let me interrupt you.
I'm almost done.
Okay, go ahead.
The long story short, he sees the power of love between the two, and then Jane dies, and he wishes for his daughter to come back, and basically he
Christian Bale
wishes for his daughter to come back, and he basically names in his dying breath Thor as the surrogate father to his daughter.
Correct.
And then they become Batman and Robin,
which is cute. It's cute.
Yeah.
But no, it didn't work for me.
They didn't hammer home enough the idea of why he was so willing to give up that.
There needed to be more build up to that. Man. Yeah. There needed to be more build up, more understanding. The character development was.
They should have developed Gore's character a lot more, I think.
Yeah.
You don't need to develop Thor a lot because he's already there. Maybe obviously develop him a bit because of his journey.
Yeah.
But introducing a new villain, which is pretty badass, should have more.
Super badass.
Yeah, should have more time.
Super badass. Okay, so Gore's story, I think, how is different from there's a lot of differences from the comic book, but so the necro sword. Let me fill me up too, man.
We got an open bar here.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, this is the main ingredient in podcasting. Just so you guys know. So they could have worked on Gore's. No, I'm good. They could have worked more on Gore's initial, origin story, and at the end as well. His origin story is intertwined with a lot more other stuff. So I understand Taika Waititi's choice and not to add certain things. So the true origin story is this. Venom symbiote?
Yeah.
Right? Of course, Venom isn't the only symbiote, but it is a living creature that comes from.
Yeah, it's an alien.
It's an alien. It comes from another planet, out there from outer space, and somewhere in the galaxy.
And they have their own personalities.
Each one has an own personality. Now, these living creatures have a god, right? These symbiotes, and there's all different versions of them. There's a god for these, right? And that god is called Null, right?
Null, Null.
K. There's a K in there.
Oh,
K-N-U-L-L, right? And they call him the King in Black or the King of Darkness or something to that effect, right?
okay.
So that kind of, and that is a villain. That is its own character, right? So the story of Gore is intertwined with that, is intertwined with the symbiotes, to be honest. So they had to do very particular way how to introduce Gore without introducing a symbiote, because that's not something that's been established in the MCU as of yet. There is no Venom in the MCU,
Right.
so to speak, right? So the idea is this: Gore has lost his entire civilization. He's the last of his kind. He's on a planet. He's deserted. He is a very devout follower, and his gods aren't listening to him and left him to die. He's about to die. He's out in the desert. They got that right. And then there he sees two gods fighting. One of those gods is Null, and there's another god which is their sun god, I believe.
The one that he
Right,
murdered
exactly.
in the beginning. Yeah.
So those two gods are fighting. They fall down to they crash land on the planet, right? So there's this giant crater. So Null is dead now. He drops his sword, which is a symbiote sword.
The necro.
The necro sword.
Okay.
It's called
Yeah.
All Black. He drops that sword, and then the other god, the sun god, is like barely alive. So Gore, being in the state that he's in, which is kind of he's an atheist now, he believes that all gods are useless, they deserve to die, and he's just full of rage. And he sees this, and uh it just further says, like, they really don't care. They're doing their own business. Really don't care about the smaller folk or anything like that.
Right.
So
Yeah.
he's enraged, and he picks up the All Black, and he kills that his own god.
Okay.
He kills it. And when he picks up the All Black, of course, like a symbiote does, it adapts to a new host and corrupts him. So now he's become this new creature.
Right.
Right. So I see Taika Waititi understanding that origin story and trying to figure out a way to not introduce a symbiote, because of course it has to do with Spider-Man and Venom and the whole rights issue. So that's why this somewhat kind of new origin story came about. Gore is much more badass in the fucking comics, man. I'm sorry for the cursing, Facebook, but Gore's a whole lot more badass in the comic books.
I think ass is fine.
He kills a lot. He kills a lot of people.
I think that's kind of how it goes typically in the comics, right? Because there's so much more room for building stories and
there's tons. I mean, you have like maybe 6 months to develop a story, with a comic book, as a series is coming out like every week, every 2 weeks or something like that.
One thing I did really enjoy, especially from a cinematography aspect, was the fight in the black and white world.
Really cool. Desaturated. That was fantastic. I love that.
Where the light from their beings is what illuminates
right, or from their weapons. Their weapons were still in color, which I thought was pretty interesting. Or that, like, when they would clash weapons, like that would still be in color. So that was very well done.
Their power, like Jane or Thor, like their eyes would light up too.
Right.
So that was cool.
Like blue lightning, yellow lightning. So that was interesting. They could have done without a couple of scenes, a couple of things. There were some parts that were running slow, but I agree with you. The third act at the end, it was lacking. I wanted to see more of Gore doing his thing. I didn't understand the whole thing about the kidnapping of the kids. That we could have done without all that. This was about Gore going on this rampage and killing gods, and Thor should have felt threatened because you have this love interest and she has just become a new god.
Right.
So I thought they were going to go that route, like, oh, I can't let him kill her now, I have to protect her. So I thought they were going to go to that route, or the fact that he's lost so many people who have been gods, and now this guy is going to come and try to finish everybody else off. There's a personal kind of thing. Like, no, I'm not going to let this happen again. It can't lose any more people.
Yeah, yeah.
So I thought that was the direction that they were going to go in, but no, they made it. They kidnapped a bunch of kids, and it was just, I don't know. Yeah, it was just. I just, yeah, it didn't stick with me. And then at the end, it was just like they get to eternity, and then he makes that one wish, and it's just like, dude, you said all gods must die, and now you just,
It's just like, well, never mind.
and now it's just never mind. Like after all this time,
it was like in Obi-Wan where the guy's like, I can't help you guys, and Obi-Wan's like, well, come on. He's like, all right, fine.
it's just they didn't build it up to where I cared about him.
Yeah,
him
or that
doing
decision.
Yeah, that decision. It just fell flat. And not only that, but then there was just like this loophole because Thor made it into that same realm and met eternity too. Why didn't he make a wish to save Jane Foster? She would have been alive.
Yeah. Well, apparently in the credit scene that she's in Valhalla. So,
I know, I saw that, but it was just like, well, dude, you were there, you were right there.
She's clanking steins with the gods and stuff.
I guess. So there were some loopholes. I didn't like. I didn't like that. That was my only thing. Like, it seemed too comical. It seemed too like it was making fun of itself.
Yeah.
It wasn't like Ragnarok was all right. It was funny. It was fun, but this one seemed just kind of too over the top. I wanted it to be a little darker, especially with the story that they were going to do.
Right.
There was more at stake. So yeah. And then another thing is that I think they just did too much with him with this whole kind of Mjolnir and Stormbreaker.
Oh, the back and forth.
The back and forth thing. It's like they did it once, but then it was just like over and over. It's just kind of beating the same, beating a dead horse with the same joke. It's just like, come on, man. Like, I'm over this. So that's my opinion of it.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. So moving on. We both saw Nope.
Yeah.
Yes. Which is Jordan Peele's latest sci-fi horror film. Very, very, very interesting film. I liked it. I do have some reservations about it. Especially again, I usually have issues with like the third act of every movie.
Yeah,
because that's typically the hardest.
I got a couple issues with the entire film, but
the whole film,
not the whole film, but like
okay.
You want me to go? Or you go first.
You go. Go ahead.
You told me to watch this film.
Yes.
You're like, you got to watch it. So I did my homework and I watched it.
Mm-hmm.
And the whole kind of build up and the opening was great. And it kind of felt like this M. Night Shyamalan, like Signs, like deal.
Very close to
it.
Very,
very close. And spoilers, because it just kind of recently came out. So if you haven't seen it, it's a spoiler warning for you guys. But I kind of had this feeling that it was going to go into a way different direction than it did. Right. And especially like once it gets to the whole the barn scene when like the kids in the alien costumes come out.
Yes.
I thought like that beginning of that scene was great.
Yes, me too.
I was like, what is going to happen right now?
It got you, right?
I was like, and then it was just like, psych. I'm like, really?
But that was great. I appreciated that.
Like, so that's where we're different. I was like,
I appreciated that scene. If those who have seen it, it. But yeah, I appreciated that scene.
Yeah.
I appreciated him playing with me.
Yeah. I thought it could have been,
because if they're smart about manipulating the audience, then that's fantastic. And because that happened, I was ready for it. I was like, yeah, I'm ready for more. Like, what else do you have up your sleeve?
Yeah.
So I was ready to be tricked. But that was a good one, because honestly, I was watching it and there were some parts in there that were kind of creepy.
Right.
That worked out. It was just like, no, is this
really
I
thought it'd been perfect if they just kind of ended it when he was just like, nope, and he walks out. Like, that would have been great. And he's just like, no, I'm done.
And they
like,
left it a mystery.
Just left it like that. But then it's like, you know, he says, it's like, you're like, nope, I'm done. But then he says, take a picture. It's like, just leave
to prove,
and it's like, just be like, nope, and just go away.
But no, but that goes to our human nature. We need to take pictures.
And then, like,
we need to prove. Honestly, we need to prove things.
Here's another thing, though. When he punches out the kid in the costume, it's like, how the hell did that kid get up so easily? He's fearing for his life, and he knocked the hell out of that.
He did. He's a grown man.
He's just like,
he's a grown man. That kid would have been bleeding with a couple of teeth knocked out. Like, come on. He got up way too fast. Yeah, that's true.
A couple of things is just kind of a slow burn in a bit.
It's a come on. What kind of movie is this?
And it wasn't that scary to me, though.
It wasn't.
Yeah.
It wasn't.
And then the whole fact that
It was mysterious.
I thought the idea of making this what they thought was a saucer be an actual creature was great. But then when you get to
Great.
when you get to the end, it's like, well, where's the payoff?
Thank you.
Yeah.
That is true. A lot of setups. There were a lot of setups throughout the movie.
Yeah.
Very little payoffs.
Yeah.
Very little.
And
payoffs.
it felt like they didn't know what direction they were going in with certain things.
Yeah.
And there's like a couple of aspects too. Is like, what's the whole deal with the shoe that's standing up in the middle of
a lot of people were asking.
Yeah.
A lot of people were asking.
What's up with that? And
Yeah.
what's and I get kind of like what they're going for with the whole captive monkey thing and like the allegories for it, and but like how does it tie in?
It's a bit of a reach.
But how does it tie into the overall movie?
Correct.
And it's
a reach.
It's like Jordan Peele's trying to tell two different stories here.
He is.
Yeah, but when he did too much and then it couldn't tie him up.
Yeah. Or he didn't do a good job of making it clear, because a lot of audience members, a lot of people, other people that I've spoken to were a bit confused.
Yeah.
All right. Is that it?
I think I think the Kiki, her character.
Yeah, Kiki
I
Palmer.
think she could have been a bit more fleshed out.
Really?
Yeah, because it was just kind of like, yeah, I'm a girl boss, and it's like, don't mess with me, and it's like, but yeah, where's like the nuance, and where's the I think it'd have been better if like her brother did die, and then she kind of like had to deal
Changing
with that,
her character,
deal with that loss. Like if he died,
there's no
if
development.
he died a little bit sooner, and then she had to be the one that kind of like pull the reins and figure out what they're gonna do. But basically, she was just like all right, get on your go do an Akira moment and do your break, and like
that was actually an Akira moment. that was totally pretty much. That was funny.
And then the whole like she knew like the whole picture thing.
Yeah,
it's like just wait. Like she's like, it's not even coming out yet, and she's like, damn it.
Yeah,
and like she keeps taking pictures. She's like,
at the
damn
end
it.
with the
it's like, yeah,
that
it's still in the
picture down
clouds.
the well.
Like just wait and you'll get your picture.
Just wait for it. yeah, that's true. That's true.
And it's like that's the whole thing too, is like they're just like they don't even care about like surviving. It's like we gotta get a picture. It's like
yeah, see, that's the thing. Like that was their main motivation. And okay, so all right, I'm gonna go now, and these are my things. It was a great concept, great concept. A lot of interesting things that were implemented in that movie. I appreciated as a filmmaker, and if I think anyone that's a filmmaker and sees this movie will catch these things and say that is dope that they did that. Like for instance, that very first film, the very first thing that they showed was the black jockey on the horse.
Yeah, the Edward Muybridge. Yeah,
right. That was the first film ever created.
Yeah,
that was the first moving picture.
Yeah,
right. And the fact that they took that,
they made a story,
out of it, and that was their great grandfather,
and how they're still in the business,
and how they're still in the business, and that was the very first film. I was like, oh, this is great. This is for film nerds.
Yeah,
that's great. That's fantastic. And then people in the industry, it showed the behind the scenes, the backside of the industry, meaning that a lot of people that see animals in films, any animal, you have to understand that that's a whole department.
Yeah,
there are animal wranglers. There are people that get paid a good amount of money to come in and wrangle the horses, wrangle the whatever you have here, the goat or whatever it is that's on film. If it's on the film, there's an entire team behind there, and they taking care of that.
They do tout in the business aspect, but too, like where he's like, we had a whole thing going. They decided to use camels. It's like,
right, yeah, exactly. They decided to use camels. They didn't use horses anymore.
The whole business.
There's a whole business behind it, and then sometimes that business is profitable, and sometimes it's not. Sometimes you might end up in the bad end of that, and it showed that it's not always what it's cracked up to be. Like the very first few scenes, it was him taking his, was it Lucky? Is that horse Lucky?
Yeah.
Right, and then just going over the safety protocols, like, hey, don't do this around the horse.
It's like, whatever, I don't care.
Right, nobody cares up until the horse just freaking kicked the the makeup.
I thought he was gonna send that lady launch.
Right, that's what I thought. Like somebody was gonna get hurt, but it was just like her makeup bag.
Yeah.
Like,
oh my god, like
like don't get too close to the horse, no loud noises, all of this stuff. But no, it showed that side of things, and I thought for the general public that was interesting because they don't know all the work that goes behind it, all the teams and the people that go behind all of
Yeah.
these little things. If you see a horse on a commercial or a movie, just don't think it just popped up and it was super easy to just bring this horse in.
Yeah.
Like, no, there
Or
were
like
some
anything like
protocols.
a dog or like
Yeah, or your dog, or you
horse,
typically
like
dogs
cat,
or cats or things like that. Like, it takes a
pigs.
lot of work.
Like,
It takes a lot, and sometimes
yeah.
these animals just don't want to fucking act. I'm sorry, but a lot of these animals just don't want to act. They're like, yo, give me food and leave me in peace. Like, I don't know what all these lights are about. What is all this
Yeah, yeah.
nonsense? So I thought that movie did a great job of showing that. It did a great job of exploitation.
Yeah.
Okay, I thought that was kind of the through line. You know, movies or Hollywood exploiting
Right.
things. I thought that was the idea, the overall arching
Yeah,
idea.
that was like the catalyst for the whole story.
Right, the whole
And
story. Because if you look at Jupiter, the Stephen Young,
yeah,
who played Jupiter,
with the monkey that goes
right,
ape
right,
shit.
yeah, literally, which is great. I love that pun. Where he did his secret showing to the
To the little room in the
to the
back.
UFO,
Oh yeah,
right? It was
yeah,
about
yeah.
exploitation. That's what
Yeah.
that was. He exploited the horses. He's exploiting this, flying saucer thing. So there's this through line there, which I thought was pretty interesting.
Yeah.
So those are, the cinematographer that came in to help them at the end, which I loved. Thank you, Jordan Peele, for putting that cinematographer in there and showing how important it is to have a good camera person. That matters. That
I
matters.
forget, like I can't pinpoint who the guy reminds me of in terms of other media, but just like that gravelly. I don't give a.
He
I don't
has
give a
he
hell
played
voice.
he
Yeah.
played the typical DP. He
Yeah.
played the typical director of photography. He's typical that he played that character just very well.
And I like
That's
that he
like an
comes out.
average
I like that
DP.
he comes out. He's not like really believing these guys, but he still comes out with a hand crank camera.
Yes.
With these like
Yeah,
"All right,
old
well."
school. Old school. And I saw all of that and I was like, oh man, this is great. I nerded out. I was like,
But
yes.
that's another thing too. Is like also spoilers. Like I don't understand his suicide.
I don't.
Yeah.
That was another thing. Okay, so all right. I was listing the good points. Let me list the bad points now, right? So yes, he did a great job of showcasing a lot of the other side of Hollywood and the exploitation of Hollywood and entertainment, and the dark side of that. And I thought that was cool. And some people like horse wranglers, animal wranglers, they have a hard time, you know. So I thought that was interesting how he took that approach and spoke to that story. Okay, now the movie falls flat in a lot of different points.
Yeah.
I actually, another thing I thought was cool was another spoiler. The UFO isn't a craft or a ship.
Yeah.
It's an actual living
Yeah.
being. It's a predator.
Right.
Right. Which I thought was a great take. I thought it was a very, very different take. Typically it's like a ship that houses other people or other beings in it. But this one was just like, no, this thing is here to eat.
Yeah.
And it spits out whatever is not flesh, right? Like metal and plastic and all that stuff.
But at first it didn't with the horse, like with the flags on it. Remember, it flew around with the damn flags.
Well, no,
Yeah.
right. Well, it eats only organic material,
Yeah.
right? Well,
So
things that are plastic.
It probably didn't get. It probably hadn't been used to getting tricked with a.
It's not used to, right?
Yeah.
Because there was a plastic horse and it took that up
Yeah.
because it
And
thought it was
sat
a real
there for
horse.
a while. And then he was just like,
And it was just
he
like,
shit it
yeah,
out.
I can't eat this. And then it just pooped it out. It landed on his car.
Yeah.
So you got the idea of, and they didn't give this away too early.
Yeah.
You kind of saw things through the lens of OJ, which is the main character,
Right.
Daniel Kaluuya, and he was putting the pieces together. So it's a little bit of a detective story because you're trying to figure out, well, what is this thing? You find out that it creates clouds and it hides in the clouds and shit, and the clouds don't move. So it gets people paranoid. After the movie, I was just looking around like this cloud isn't moving around here. So, but there's these little things that were actually pretty fun. Yeah, so there's a lot of setups, very little payoff. I thought there were some parts that just didn't make sense, like the cinematographer at the end. Um, he decided to, commit suicide, basically, and I didn't think that was necessary.
The cinematographer.
The
Yeah,
cinematographer
yeah.
at the end.
Yeah, the motivations were unclear.
The motivations are
Yeah.
super unclear. I just don't understand why he did that, because he got the shot. So he had two cameras. He had two hand crank cameras, and the reason why he had these two hand crank cameras was because that it the
It's like an EMP.
this being,
Yeah.
right, shut off anything electronical,
Yeah. It's like a flying
electronic,
EMP. Yeah.
right? So cell phones, digital cameras, anything electronic was shut down. So he brought in a hand cranked camera, an old school camera, which is it's going to work fine,
Yeah.
because it's
It's
mechanical.
analog. It's completely analog.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly. It's all mechanical, nothing digital on it. But they needed to get this shot. They needed
Yeah.
to get this thing that actually exists. So the cinematographer was there with his fucking giant,
Yeah.
cast
Almost
iron.
like they're in this little machine gun nest, and they're like, he's like reload.
Right, yeah, yeah, which was and that's what you do. That's
Yeah.
oh my god. So at the guy that played Angel,
Yeah.
the Spanish guy that worked at Fry's, which is great. Shout out to Fry's. The guy that worked at Fry's, he was the AC, and he was like, and then the cinematographer, like they do, he's like Mag, and then the guy had to go in there, and he had the little tent.
It's the DP's just like,
Yeah, he was waiting, just typically waiting like he does, like, come on. And then he had the little tent where he had to go in and change and swap out the film. Oh man, every cinematographer, every AC, the camera department nerd knows exactly what that felt like, knows exactly what's going on there. And that's Jordan Peele saluting.
Yeah.
That's Jordan Peele saying, I see you guys, I understand you guys.
Yeah.
So I saw that and I just nerded out. I was like, yeah, man, you get it. So
Yeah.
that was cool. So yeah, he switched the mag, he swapped out the film, put a new mag in, he was still cranking it, and he got the shot. And then once he got the shot, he got his other little camera, and he said something cryptic and then walked off
Yeah.
to go get
sucked up in
get sucked in. So I'm like, well, what is he trying to do? Is he trying to get footage of getting sucked in there and is sacrificing himself? Because if that's the case, dude, you really don't need that, man. Like,
yeah, you already got enough.
You got enough, man. Yeah, I think that's unnecessary. Live a full life. You'll be all right. So I didn't understand his sacrifice there.
Right.
And then yeah, the payoff at the end. Again, I'm revealing more spoilers, but the payoff at the end, where they got that picture, right? And she kept trying and trying. And that was a nice suspenseful type of a move where she kept trying and she didn't get it right. She was trying to take this picture from a well and kept cranking it, waiting for this being to kind of
just to
get into the right place.
Big blimp.
Yeah,
figure,
which I thought was cool at the end because it changed its shape from being a saucer into more of a like jellyfish looking thing.
The way I took it was like it was becoming more aggressive and pissed off.
Yeah,
kind of like
it was. Yeah, I saw that
when a peacock flares, it's
right.
It's
like, oh, I'm ready. Like I'm not playing around anymore. Like it's just like it just stopped playing around.
But
so I saw that.
That's what kind of lost me too. It's like, well, now it's just a monster movie. And
right, it turned into a monster movie. It was weird. I was trying to process what was happening. I was like, oh, it's a jellyfish shape-shifting thing now.
Like it kind of loses its suspense.
That's interesting.
It becomes like it just reveals itself. It's like, well, now that's all right. That's what that is.
Okay. Right. But I was expecting more surprises.
Yeah.
Because typically that's what he does. So I didn't know where he was going. I was just expecting another ace up his sleeve.
Yeah.
Right. So I saw it happen, but then it was just leading towards the end, and I was like, well, what happened here? Because at the end, and this is what pissed me off the most, it just died from a balloon.
Well, it took too much inorganic material up, and then because remember it was getting like it wasn't feeling good when the whole plastic horse was in its belly, so like, it was agitated. So this whole big friggin' thing, you can't. It's like you eat too much.
It's not going to digest the balloon.
You eat way too much, you feel like crap, and then
I guess it was kind of like, what it reminded me of? It reminded me of a snake.
Yeah.
When snakes eat stuff they're not supposed to eat.
Yeah.
And then they just get bloated, and whatever it is that they ate, is just like stuck within their
Yeah.
coils.
But instead, like it just being digested, it just exploded.
It exploded. So
Yeah.
that's kind of, okay. So
Yeah.
in that sense, it kind of makes sense. It's
Yeah.
like a snake that
In that
ate
sense,
something.
it makes sense.
Yeah. It was like a snake that ate something that exploded it or that
Yeah.
wasn't supposed to and ended up in a bad way. But it was very anticlimactic.
Right. Yeah. Had build up, build up, build up, build up.
And then that
A lot of
happens.
goodness. And then it was like,
Yeah.
all
And then
right.
boom. And it's just like, no way. Is that it? Is that it? I would have appreciated it if somehow they found out that there were more of these things.
Yeah.
I would have
Or
appreciated
exploring like where the hell this came from.
right. Where did this come from?
Yeah.
Like I would have appreciated if somehow, they thought it was over. They got rid of this thing. They're all exhausted and shit. And then there are reports of like more of these things
Yeah.
throughout the world. Like I wanted it to be like this ending, like, oh shit. Like I wanted it to be an oh shit.
Yeah, like
moment.
they get their picture and then it's just like, well, reports coming out of this. It's just like, oh fuck.
Yeah. Yeah, right. Yeah. Like it's something
gets
at
the
the end.
picture
It's
in-
too much of a
yeah.
happy ending at the end.
Yeah.
Like his last movie, which was Us,
Yeah.
didn't have a happy ending. You thought it was a happy ending.
Right.
It wasn't a happy ending because then you realize like the real reveal. You were like, oh shit, which was I thought that was cool. Yeah, so I would have appreciated a darker ending to this. Everything else about it was all right. It was good. I just didn't like the payoff at the end, man. Like it was kind of leading to a specific place. They were trying to get photos of it. They were trying to get pictures of it. I get that they wanted to save their ranch. I get the motivation behind it. Yeah, they just the ending just needed something else. Defeating this thing just needed something else. I just hated the fact that it died from a balloon. Hated that. And the monkey, they needed to tie in the monkey situation. But again, it goes into the exploitation of creatures.
It does. It does it well, I think.
Right.
Yeah, that part,
I can understand that. It goes into the
because
exploitation.
they're exploiting this alien for whatever gain, just
whatever gains. Right. And the
and
thing that set off the monkey was a balloon.
yeah, that's
It was a balloon pop. It was a balloon pop. It's full circle.
It does. All right, so it's about the time for another quick break, but
Yep.
stick around because we have more of the meat in this chat we're having, which is Stranger Things 4, some Marcel the Shell, which I'm going to talk extensively about because I love that movie.
Yeah, you saw it, and you have a couple of good reviews.
But yeah, I'll be back in a couple minutes, and then
okay, yeah, another break. Now you're good.
Hello. Welcome to the 700 Club. Have you ever heard about our Lord and Savior? No, yeah. We were getting ready to come back, and then I realized that I needed some nicotine because the French kind of influenced me.
Oh, great.
So I think this is dying. Got it. We're
Yeah.
good. Okay.
All right, so we're back. We have to take a little piss break.
Yeah, we appreciate the 2 viewers who are here.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh,
That's it.
3. 3.
That's it.
Oh my god.
We lost some people while we took
no,
a break.
we were down to 1 when we took a break.
Oh, were we?
Yeah.
Okay, so we've got some people back.
No, now we're at 4.
All right. Okay, that's good. Don't jinx it. Stop counting. Let's go.
Well, the trick here's the thing, Allison. I can only count to 4.
So it works out perfectly. Works out fine. All right. So yeah, before we went on the break, we just finished talking about Nope.
Yeah.
There's a lot of spoilers and stuff for the people that haven't seen it. So but yeah, we both talked about some of the good things that we liked and some gripes that we had about it.
Well, that's with every movie, you know. There has to be if there's one thing my first film professor taught me. Shout out to Barack if you're ever watch this. Miss you, love you. Hope you're doing good. He always said that nothing's perfect.
Yeah.
So he would
That's
he would never give you a 10 out of 10 on a paper.
Okay.
If it was like the best he could do, it would be 9 out of 10.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
So I think that's the beauty about movies is that you can find bad things and
you can always find bad things.
Find great things.
Yeah.
And it's that's how you learn, that's how you grow, and that's how you take influence and like, oh, maybe I can do this better. Or maybe
Absolutely.
I can. And that's art in general.
Absolutely right. That is very true.
But yeah, we talked about Nope. We talked about what did we talk about before? Thor. Yeah.
Thor, Love and Thunder.
Yeah. See the memories just going.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what Paris does to you.
Yeah.
No, but we've got a couple of things to talk about. So yeah, but Nope gets 4 stars for me.
So 4 out of
4 out of 5.
4 out of 5. I give it 3.5.
3.5?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's not bad.
I would give Thor same 3.5.
3.5.
Yeah.
Okay.
Maybe a 3.145.
I give it 3 stars. I give it 3 stars. Gore it's
the highlight.
Absolutely misused and was great. Christian Bale is very magnetic whenever he's on screen. Like you're seeing his character and you're like, man, he's good.
A quick thing, go back real quick to what I liked about Korg's character.
Korg is great.
Was
funny.
Was basically a shout out to Taika himself, which is like, oh, turns out the only thing we need to survive is our mouth.
Yeah.
It's like,
he's
because when Korg dies, it's his face that lives,
right,
which is his mouth. He's like, oh, it turns out that's all we need.
Yeah, and then they can rebuild.
And then the whole how they mate.
Yeah, how they mate.
They
put hands together.
Their species is it's only male.
Yeah,
but it's not even a sexual thing. It's just like we just my 2 dads, they held their hands over a fire, and a month later they had me.
Yeah, pretty much. That's how it works. Very interesting stuff. Yeah.
So yeah, we talked about that. But next we have on the agenda is where do you want to start? We want to start with what we both watched, or
so we've already done that. So we've talked about we both
Stranger
saw
Things,
Thor, Love and Thunder. We both saw Nope. We talked about Stranger Things the last time.
Yeah, but not last time we did this was before the last 2 episodes.
Was it?
Yeah, we did this.
So let's dive into it then.
Okay,
let's go ahead and dive into it. Okay, so Stranger Things 4, the last 2 episodes. Yeah, that's right. You're right.
Yeah, because we didn't see the last one we did was so we haven't released episode 2 yet.
That's right.
So I think I kind of wanted to do this live to give people something to watch because that's still in the works. I went off to Paris. I was supposed to edit it. I didn't. Handed it over to Ellison. We both been kind of busy. Ellison got sick. He's got his life to live. But our plan is to do this one live and then release both episodes, the edited versions,
at the same time.
Where I'm not walking off to take a smoke break or go to the bathroom.
Right.
So we released those at the same time. But last time we did this was I think June 29th.
Yeah.
So it was just a few days before
you were gonna go.
Yeah, because it came out on July 2nd or something. 4th. I think it was the 4th, wasn't it?
It was actually
maybe I don't know.
It was around...
if you're in the comments and let us know. But it just didn't tie into our schedule to do that last episode
Right.
after it came out. Because
Right. Yeah.
I left on the 5th, and
Yeah. You were gone by that
went
time.
off to Mars, and
Right. Yeah.
but yeah. So wearing this for the special occasion. You know, so if you're, Alvin, if you're still there, this is the official shirt. I know you got the knockoff brand.
Oh man! Shots fired.
No, but he had it first, and he actually has the baseball one, which is cool. But
Yeah.
I just can't. I don't know.
Oh, the Hanley.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Not bad. All right. Cool.
But yeah, when we went to the bar,
Yeah.
I think maybe it was last time you and I went, or a different time.
Yeah.
but,
I think he had it.
Yeah, it was, like all of us showed up in our Hellfire shirts, and it was great. Yeah, so we just
That's
needed a
fantastic.
20-sided die to start playing some D&D. But
Yeah.
yeah, it was great. But yeah, obviously in the first half or the first 3/4 of the series, season 4 was the highlight was obviously Eddie and Maxine.
Yeah.
But this last one was just mostly Eddie Munson, dude. And
yeah, man. Yeah. So wait, so all right, go ahead, finish your review.
Okay. Well, I'll keep going then.
Yeah.
So I think it's rare when you have a character that is introduced so late into a series and that does so well and that captivates and captures the audience in a way that is just like phenomenal.
Yeah.
And Joseph Quinn has actually become the most like in demand actor in Hollywood
just like
right
that.
now. Yeah.
Overnight.
Yeah.
All you just need is what. So to all the actors out there, keep doing your thing, keep pushing through. Don't get discouraged because all you need is just one role.
Yeah.
All you need is just that one good role in a kind of a long shot type of of a series or whatever the case is. But that's all you need. Sometimes the same thing happened with David Harbour as Hopper.
Yeah.
He didn't think that this was going to.
Yeah, he was always kind of like that background role kind of character.
Right.
And
Yeah.
And he
didn't expect this to blow up, and now everybody knows him.
But also, like I would say, like what Ellison's saying, to actors out there who want to, who get discouraged, but also don't go into it thinking that you're going to be the next Eddie Munson.
No,
because that's not how Joseph Quinn did it either.
Right.
He just came in and was like, "Oh, this is a great character. I'll just play it."
You focus on the job. You focus on the role. You do a great job, and
But also, like behind every great actor, there's great writers.
Yes, that's true.
There's great, production crew.
That's true. That's true. Yeah.
But I do like how they integrated his personal talents with his like the most badass solo that we've probably seen in a show.
Yeah.
Because
that was awesome. That was a nice sequence that they did.
So he actually did play most of that.
Yeah.
Himself.
Except for the riff
solo, which was done by Joe Trujillo's son. So Joe Trujillo is the bassist of Metallica, and his son actually did the solo.
Yeah,
but everything else was Joseph Quinn.
Okay,
and a lot of the actors have said that because they were doing it like in the height of the pandemic, like basically 2020 and early 2021. Whenever they did this, they were saying like, they hadn't seen live music in a long time. So basically, like the whole production crew they got to a treat with like live music, and they all kind of treated it as like a little concert.
Right, it's a small little concert.
Yeah,
I can imagine. That's cool, man.
And real quick, he actually went and met Metallica, and like played like a little jam session with them. And they gave him basically a replica guitar that they had, which was basically the one, almost the same like model that he used on the show, and they gave it to him and let him keep it.
No kidding. Yeah, man, he's become the fan favorite. I remember what was it? I think it was either a Comic-Con or something. It was at a convention. I think it was just a recent Comic-Con where a fan just kind of said, said some of the most heartwarming things to him on stage, thanking him. And he was like, "Hey, the character that you played, we all were that person.
Yeah,
we can relate to who you were. You were the outcast. You were labeled the troublemaker. People didn't understand you and all that stuff. You were this nerdy guy, but you were into cool stuff." Yeah. She was just saying all this stuff, and he was in tears.
Yeah. So
because he didn't understand, like he didn't get how important that was until he heard some people talking about that.
I heard in the beginning because she mentioned like we're so sorry how you were treated, because in the beginning of that little tour he was doing, he had this like big signing event. Yeah, and the staff were just like ushering him like a dog, just like, wow, go here, sign this, and not giving him time to like talk to fans.
Oh wow,
and like he just he couldn't really handle it, and
Yeah.
he didn't like how, like you could see in his face, like he did it, but he just it was affecting him because
Yeah.
this is an actor who never had this kind of exposure,
Right.
and
Right. You go to from 0 to 100.
A lot of actors don't have that,
Yeah.
like that kind of like insane, like it's a pop cultural event.
Right.
And it's massive.
You start as an actor that's done some small stuff and nobody knows you to like immediately.
And like a lot of the actors on the show haven't even gone through that, where like this huge influx of people, taking to him. So he was just, basically being treated very like it was mostly the staff that were treating him like that, and just like, oh yeah, okay, Joseph, and like come here and come there, and then the fans be like, do the thing, and then he would go to talk to him and like, okay, you're done, and like just move on, and like,
like you're some kind of
the whole thing about like fans and like
not being personable
is they want to be like they want to thank him and they want to like talk to him,
right.
And
they're there for a reason,
and unless you're like one of those like stuck up actors who's like over it and like not into it, like you're probably gonna want to like enjoy it and take it in, and he just didn't get the chance, and he's overworked. So that's where the lady was just like, we're so sorry that you had to deal with that, and then we're really thankful that you've been giving us your time and all that stuff, and then that's when he was just like he started crying. He's like why did you do that?
I saw him do that. He's like, why did you do that? But it was very heartwarming. It was awesome. And I thought that was a great message. That little video clip, I think, is a great message for just up and coming actors, man. Just kind of stick with your thing.
I think it's a really great message, like in just the human aspect too.
Absolutely,
because that really it goes to show you that they're just people. They're just a lot of like rich celebrities or like just celebrities in general get a lot of like flack because there's this like dehumanizing aspect where there's a disconnect between the reality of their personhood and like the fandom and all that. But and at the end of the day, they're just people. And I think most people realize that, but it's always the bad actors that kind of like take advantage of it, and then
of course.
And they get a lot of flack. It's like, oh well, they're rich and they're famous, and like why should I care? And
that's true.
There's a like I might talk on this in a little bit too, but there's like a growing sentiment of hate towards the arts and hate towards like acting, hate towards filmmaking, and
there's a lot of that.
But people consume the art on a daily basis, but they hate the people that make it. So I would say it was, in story wise, like that scene was very well done. The editing was top notch.
Yes,
I love it when the timing of like something in the scene actually matches up to the runtime of the scene itself.
Right. Yeah.
When
they did that very well.
It's like 30 seconds.
Yeah.
And then it goes 20. He's like 10. He's like what?
Very well choreographed.
Like I would say it's up there with the trench run in A New Hope when it's like 15 minutes until and you can time it. It's like once the trench run starts, and they're like, 15 minutes until we get into range. It ends right about 15 minutes later. That's I love that. It's like
that's cool.
Big nerd.
They kept it very accurate.
And on top of that too, just the whole nuance between the characters and Vecna and his actor and it was amazing, phenomenal.
It was. It led into season 5. There was a lot of things that were wrapped up very, very well.
Alvin says, "Yeah, it's very nice official."
What's that?
Alvin, he caught that.
But it was. They wrapped up all the loose ends. The Duffer Brothers, I think, have a very, very bright career ahead of them, and I am a fan. Stephen King is a fan of their stuff, and reportedly, it has been said that the Duffer Brothers, after they're done with Stranger Things, are going to move on to a Stephen King property.
Okay,
which is very interesting, and I hope
no word on what it is.
No confirmation, but I have an inkling that, and I hope. I really hope
Dark Tower.
They do Dark Tower, and it gets the proper attention and production it deserves, because it's freaking fantastic. Anybody that's read the Dark Tower that knows about, I mean, this is Stephen King's masterpiece, and it's saying a lot. In comparison to all his books that he's done.
He also has like that built-in universe that surrounds the Dark Tower.
He does. It's a fantastic. He was the one that created this multiverse thing that's become this big trend. He was actually the first writer to start with that.
So for those who've seen our first podcast and those who are going to watch our second episode in this one, there's a common theme here where Ellison brings up the Dark Tower in each one.
I do, because I am a fan. And shout out to my 2 friends, Javon and Aaron Blumberg. They put me onto the Dark Tower years ago. They were raving about it. I started reading it. It's a novel and a comic book, and it's on Audible. So check it out, man, if you're into that kind of stuff. And if you're a Stephen King fan, I certainly am. And it's just great. It's the world where everything that Stephen King has written is in this world. So, Pet Cemetery, Carrie, um,
Shining,
The Shining,
Doctor Sleep,
Doctor Sleep, all of the Stephen King properties,
connect.
they connect in this
is it
story.
everything he's written?
Everything.
Okay, because I was gonna say you said like the first, but I think I could argue that like Lovecraft was kind of like the first because of all the Cthulhu mythos.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah,
Fair enough.
but not in everything that he wrote. I don't think. Yeah.
No, yeah, that's true because a lot of his stuff were
Stephen
kind of
King
one
is,
off.
like, keeps his everything in together basically.
Yeah.
And
I mean, when I found out I didn't know about this until later on, but he started writing Dark Tower back when he was like 20, 25 years old.
Oh wow.
Like this is one of the first very few things. And his main inspiration, Tolkien.
Really?
He wanted to create a world, his own world, just like Tolkien did.
Whole mythos.
An entire mythos, and that's how he started. And the Dark Tower was a through line his entire life, and then all the stories, all his novels were just little things in between. His novels were little stories in between the Dark Tower.
Give nods to it and like
it's crazy how he orchestrated that whole thing. So all that to say that if the Duffer Brothers work on this, I think it's in good hands.
Do you think it might be a new property?
It might be.
I think that'd be interesting.
That would be interesting. I mean,
I do hope that
that'd be fantastic.
I don't think they will, but I do hope that they don't kind of go the route with Dave Benioff and Dan Weiss, where they got this deal and then kind of cut out.
They dropped the ball.
Yeah, but I don't quite think they will because obviously
so.
Stranger Things is their
baby.
creation, their baby,
baby, and they're doing great off of that.
They're adamant about ending it at 5.
At 5,
seasons.
I think so. I think it's gotten to the point where it's. I thought 4 was going to be the last.
Yeah,
originally
they were going to do back to back.
Right.
With 4.
It's a lot.
Whether it was going to make 4 a long season or do 4 and 5. The pandemic kind of threw a wrench in that.
Right.
And they've had to rethink. But they have had this whole kind of thing written out since the beginning where they have the beats and they have the plot points that already exist. So they know what they want to talk about. They know what they want to tell. But I think they kind of have to like work around this whole time issue where that like the whole pandemic kind of threw a wrench in like these
I know
people are no longer really, I mean, they're kids to us, but they're not really kids anymore.
Well, people forget that between the time of filming and then when it actually comes out, it's a year or more.
Yeah.
Between that time.
I
so
mean, they were working on it still after the first part of the season came out. They were still putting it these last 2 episodes.
Yeah, they're still putting stuff together. Yeah. So kids, we've seen these kids grow up in front of our faces.
And now this next season is going to be 2 years from now. So
so and then they're going to be older.
Yeah.
So, but they're doing a good job with the pacing of the story.
Right.
They have a lot of things going on. There's a lot of different angles. And this last season, you had all these different story arcs. You had Hopper and them going to Russia and doing that whole thing.
Yeah.
You had, Mike and, in the van with the pizza guy, and they're doing that thing. And then you had 11.
Purple Palm Tree Delight.
Yeah, that and then you had 11's story, and then Vecna, and there was a lot.
Yeah, I liked how it was like this season where they all were kind of in their separate realms and then coalesced right at the end.
They all came together.
Not even like really at the end. They were kind of fighting this war separately in their own way.
Right. Yeah, they were still separated.
Yeah.
Strangely enough,
and it wasn't until like basically the ending. Scene.
The end. Yeah,
they came back together.
Exactly. So they've paced it pretty well with all these stories, with all these different elements going on. I think it's superbly done. The fighting and the suspense and the plot points, even the music. The music has been great. Everyone's been playing Kate Bush
Well, yeah, Metallica got the Master of Puppets got number one
Yeah,
too.
yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like it's
Yeah.
just working out, man. These
Yeah.
guys are awesome. These guys are
And we,
great
we know
filmmakers.
Lars has the rights to Master of Puppets. 'Cause
Yeah, we do.
But
Yeah, we do.
a cool little tidbit for those who might not know is Kate Bush was smart enough to retain the rights to her songs.
That's right.
And that song, never got to where it was back when she released it, and it got to the point where it came out again on the show where she was making $1 million a day.
Yeah,
in
great.
royalties.
Yeah,
and it went up to I think number one on the UK Billboard.
Yeah, man.
And pretty high up here, and it's great for her.
She got her due finally, man. She got her
and
due.
I love that because also big 80s anything fans. So
Yeah.
And
that is like a quintessential
yeah
80s song,
right.
Like just all of it. It's just like it envelops that. It has that definition, man.
Yeah.
I love that song. To be
And if
honest,
you watched the music video, it's a great
Yeah,
dance
I saw
number
it too. Yeah,
very
it's not bad.
interpretive swan dancing. But no, it's good. And I like how a lot of people are coming out in defense of these younger kids who are discovering this music.
Yeah.
Like a lot of times you might get you just finding out about this music because of this, and they the whole gatekeeping thing and all that.
No, I think that's silly.
And they're like, who cares? And
let these kids explore the 80s music. Like it's cool. There's a lot of good music out there.
Yeah. So great for that. Curious, like, where do you think this is gonna go? Like,
the Stranger Things.
Yeah. So
ultimately,
well, like Vecna, and there has to be there has to be something more to the Upside Down, and because he basically he took control over this force that already existed there, which ended up being the Mind Flayer. So he controlled this thing,
and I knew it. I knew that was going to be it.
Yeah.
Like there was this whole thing of like the Mind Flayer is actually the one that's calling the shots, and I was like, I don't know about that. I honestly said, like, I don't know about that. I think Vecna's behind the entire thing, and then of course it was revealed that he was. So yeah.
But like this force, though, like obviously him controlling it allowed him to control all the creatures,
all the other creatures. So
they're still tied to that, whatever the hell that is.
Right. Whatever that thing is.
And so the question remains is like, where did all this come from? Was it created when?
Well, what is this Upside Down?
Yeah. Is it tied to 11? Was it created when she opened that first portal? Did she create this other? Dimension, and when she sent him through there, and
is it really the underworld? Like what's going on? I don't know if those questions could be answered. What I think this just comes down to I think that the creators have done a great job of amping up the stakes in every season. Right, because at first you see this just happen to certain individuals. Right, like one kid got lost in the Upside Down, so now they have to go back and get him, and the stakes increase all the way up to it threatens the entire town now.
Yeah,
like there's these cracks into another world in this town.
So that's gonna be interesting too, with because there's rumors it's gonna be a time jump, right?
Yeah.
So how are they gonna deal with that? How are they gonna? Because it ends like on a big cliffhanger where they're overlooking the town, and it's all pretty screwed up. And an interesting thing about that last shot is it all starts with Will in season 1.
And
it's
gonna
ends with Will. Because something's tying him to that. He still has that connection, and he feels the back of his neck, that something's coming out of it, and,
that's true.
So there's some theory. Obviously there's always fan theories and coming out. One of them is that 11 might be killed off in the last season, where she sacrifices herself, and
who knows?
Or maybe Will gets powers of his own, or
who knows?
There's another theory out there, because people like D&D people who have, because it's always a D&D character that kind of comes out of this.
D&D related, heavily D&D related.
So there's a theory out there that that Eddie Munson is going to be this vampire character
I heard about this.
D&D.
I heard this one.
And they kind of,
he's not dead. Eddie's not dead.
Well, they said the Duffer Brothers have said that his death is going to have ramifications in this next season. So,
that's interesting.
Yeah,
I wonder where they're going to take that. Okay.
And I think they'd be smart to capitalize on all the fan hype with his character.
We'll see. We'll see. I mean, I don't want them to give in to fan service.
Yeah,
because they haven't done that yet.
Right.
So I don't want them to do that just for the sake of doing it. I want them, whatever their plan is, I trust them enough at this point.
I do wonder though if fans out there have gotten close, and then
Maybe they
they're
have.
going, oh shit, now we gotta
They've figured it out.
now we gotta
Yeah,
change
that's possible. That's possible.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's this. Yeah, I've heard this theory about this vampire theory that
Yeah.
he's not really dead and he's still stuck on the upside
Get
down.
resurrected by
Yeah,
Vecna
yeah.
another lieutenant or something.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's interesting, but however, it's hard to guess when it comes to like a brand new property that hasn't been based on a book or
Yeah.
comic book or something else because it's really up to them to do whatever
Yeah.
the hell they want at the end of
Yeah.
the day.
And
So
it's like it's crazy how successful they are with this. And
it's great.
yeah, and
This is a filmmaker's like dream come true. Like this is that story. At least for modern times, this is that story where you create a great intellectual property, a great story. You shop it around to see what distributor is interested in it. You get lucky, you hit one, that's good, and you just create, and there's a ton of success there, man.
And they put themselves
That's
in
the
this
dream come true.
position where Netflix is having all these kind of issues.
Yeah.
And they have this little leverage where they can kind of do whatever they want because that's the main series.
That's one of their golden eggs.
I think this last couple episodes just almost overtook Squid Game in terms of viewership.
Really?
Because remember, Squid Game was like a worldwide.
I remember
thing.
Squid Game was a worldwide thing. To be honest, I didn't see all of it.
Okay, you still gotta watch it, man.
I didn't see all of it. I got up to just maybe the 5th episode, something like that. It's interesting. I've seen. It's all too familiar for me, so it didn't grab me.
Okay,
you know what I mean? Like yeah, it just didn't grab me. I got up to the part where it was just like they had to vote, they were let out, go back to their normal lives, and then some people were just like, okay, this is not going to work out. And then they went back in. I got up to that point, but I don't know. It didn't stick with me. Maybe I'll give it another go round and see what all this what's going on.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah, you do that, and I'll do the boys.
No, the boys is unacceptable. You need to watch that. That is fantastic. You know what that is? That is a relief to all the superhero stuff that you've been consuming.
Yeah,
like all this Disney, Marvel superhero stuff, and DC superhero stuff that you've been like taking in. This is the answer to that. This cleans your palate. Because this is a little bit more, I wouldn't say realistic because it's not, but it's a little bit closer to reality as far as we have a timer going on here.
Okay.
All right, just give us a pause. We'll be right back.
Okay, so yeah, the problem with that is when you use a DSLR,
Timer.
Yeah, the live feed has a timer on it,
Right.
and we've been jerry rigging it, and must have a shift in the universe there where it knocked off our little trick.
Mm-hmm.
So it gives us a half hour and then it cuts out. But yeah, we're back.
Right.
Yeah. So we were talking about Stranger Things.
Right.
How would you rate the last couple episodes?
I would give 4. All right, so 4 out of 5.
4 out of 5.
4 out of 5. The last 2 episodes, they were movies.
Yeah.
They were movies. I sat down and watched movies. Every episode was like a movie.
Yeah.
Self-contained.
The last 2 were very long.
Super long. They were over an hour.
Last one was like way over.
Yeah.
The last one was like 2 hours.
Yeah, close. Close.
Episode 8 was about an hour and 45.
Yeah.
And the second one, episode 9, was about 2 hours long.
They were really, really good, man. And the funny thing is that even after they were so long, it just kept you wanting more.
Right.
So they did a great job.
Yeah.
Like I said, man, these guys are great filmmakers. great filmmakers.
And they're young. I think they're
They're
younger than
young,
me. I
man.
think
They
they're
have a
in their
bright
late
future.
20s.
Yeah, they have a very bright future,
Yeah.
man. So I tip my hat to them. I want to see more of their stuff. They're good at this. They're good at what
and I
they're
think
doing.
like that's the point too. Is like they're kind of getting to the area where it's like, well, okay, we got to do something new.
Yeah.
We gotta branch out. We gotta,
Yeah.
this is. I liked how they acknowledged that time where it's like, okay, this has to end.
Yeah.
We got to be done. It's a great
Right.
story.
Right.
You can't dilute the goodness. And
No. You have to know when to call it.
Yeah.
You have to know when to call quits, man. Especially when it comes to series. There's some series just don't know when to stop.
Yeah.
I've seen too many series that do that, and it just like after a while, you just like, what? I don't even want to watch it anymore.
Yeah.
Perfect example is The Walking Dead. How many seasons is out now? I mean,
Oh, it's still going, right?
it's still going,
crazy,
man.
yeah.
They're losing characters left and
They've
right.
ended
I
that
watch
show,
it
like,
now, and I
4
don't even
times.
recognize people.
They've ended it like 4 times too. It's like, oh, this is the last one.
I
and then
can't.
it's
I
like-
can't. I can't. It just becomes this cash cow. It becomes this machine.
Well,
where it
that's
just-
where it goes back to what we were talking about
just
earlier
keeps
with
going.
with like Nope touting on the whole business side of
Right.
film.
Right.
Whereas,
Spectacle.
where you have your producers and the studios that are like, well, no, let's just milk
Like, why
it.
would we
Yeah.
end it? No,
Yeah.
this is
It's
making us so much money.
Yeah, it's printing money. Like, let me get more.
I think to me it's ridiculous.
Yeah.
You can only hang on to a story but for so long, and the only thing that drives a story are characters, and you don't have the same characters that you started off with. Rick in The Walking Dead isn't around anymore.
Right.
The majority of those guys, I think there's maybe a few that are still sticking around, but then you still have to you have to keep it fresh.
Yeah.
You have to introduce new characters, new problems, new conflicts. Listen, everything comes to an end. Figure out how to end it, man. Be done with it. Move on to another.
Yeah.
Move on to something else.
You can only write so many characters before it gets
After
repetitive.
after a while, it's just like I'm down. I'm done with the zombies. Is there a cure? How long has this been happening? Somebody find a cure already? Like what's going on? It's insane. So with Stranger Things, I don't think they'll have that problem. It's not it's making the money for sure, but they have to. I think they're going to do a good job ending it, and they're pacing. Like I said, I thought season 4 was going to be the end, but just looking at season 4 and how they're preparing it, how they've unveiled like the actual true villain and what his goal was and how it ties into the beginning and how it ties into 11 and how they're wrapping up all of the characters. I think they're doing a great job. I think the pacing and everything is working out just fine. So this next season, season 5, if it is going to be the end, I think it would be a good.
It is.
It would be.
Yeah.
It would be a good way to end it and just wrap it up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would give it a 4.5.
4.5. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
I think a couple of the characters kind of fell flat for me.
Yeah.
I think Robin had a great season 3.
She
and
did.
then kind of like just turned into this character of her character. in
She
season
did
4.
become a
Yeah.
caricature. Yeah.
And Argyle he was funny, but kind of fell flat a little bit. Just
Yeah.
kind of like this, it's typical. It was like it's like that's not what a stoner character is,
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So Alvin mentioned because we were talking about The Boys, he mentioned Invincible.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So, so Invincible is done by the Robert Kirkman, the same guy that created The Walking Dead, and is of course based on a comic book that he created and turned it into an animated series, and it only works animated. And I think that's genius.
Yeah.
Invincible's great. It's along the same lines as The Boys.
Yeah, it's very similar.
Very similar in the fact that superheroes aren't always the good guys.
Yeah, they're not always super.
Yeah, they're not. No, they're
Well, I mean,
super.
like the
but they're not always heroes.
Yeah, heroes. Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
So there's a very gray line between hero and villain.
Yeah.
And it's blurred. And it just takes the superhero mythos and just puts it on his head. And it's a great little story. It's a great journey. I saw the first season of Invincible. At first, I didn't think it was going to be all that. It got me by the first episode. And I was like, what the hell is this?
Yeah.
I need to watch more of this. What is happening? Good surprises, shocking stuff. And I'm like, wow, they're going there.
Yeah.
So
The
it's
whole
very
brutal
entertaining.
aspect too. Like I thought it was just gonna be like another campy superhero show, or
Right.
and it's like they get into like their little justice like Hall of Justice or whatever, and it's
Right.
like, oh yeah, now they're all dead.
Right, right, yeah, just off the bat, and I'm like, what is happening?
The Superman character gets corrupted or whatever.
Yeah, man, it's sick. It's sick. But yes, Invincible. Thanks, Alvin, for pointing that one out. Invincible is great. You guys should watch it if you like the boys. Yeah, yeah. It hasn't gotten that much attention, but it's pretty good.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay. Next,
What do we got?
we got Marcel the Shell with shoes on
Yes. So you saw that recently.
twice.
You saw it twice. That's
Yeah.
it was that good.
Yeah. And
Talk about it.
just first thing is A24.
Yeah.
And they've been killing it.
A24 has been killing it.
And like I first started noticing them with all the trailers they're putting out a couple years ago.
Yeah.
I'm like, A24. I'm like, what's all that about? Because it kind of came out of left field a little bit.
Listen, man, they are hitting home runs left and right. Every film is a home run.
Yeah,
that's great.
Everything Everywhere All at Once is A24.
They're ranking in the money.
Little quick thing before I start getting the movie. There's a theory that the Marcel Shell is tied in the universe with Everything Everywhere All at Once, because they make references to the Everything Bagel, and it's all googly eyes.
You're kidding me. Are you serious?
Yeah, well, it's a little fan whatever.
They did a little fan service. Oh, that's fantastic.
No, it's a fan theory that it's tied in because
because
the Everything Bagel and the googly eyes thing. So
and it's in the movie.
There's a mention for Everything Bagel. There's a quick mention there.
That is that is ridiculous.
But
now I have to watch it.
A little backstory on this. It was it originated as a couple shorts on YouTube, like in 2010. As this animated short, stop motion,
right?
About this little shell, that has shoes, and he's like, I would say he's probably like a teenager, named Marcel, and it's just it's like this cute little thing that's like very human.
Yeah.
And this movie is really
great.
So
these short films, did they just pop up on YouTube?
Yeah, it popped up on YouTube, and they got like they actually talk about this as a reference in the movie itself, where they're making this documentary, the movie, and he puts out it's Dean Fleischer Camp, who is actually married to Jenny Slate.
Mm-hmm.
And for those who might not know who Jenny Slate is, if you've watched Parks and Recreation, she is John Ralphio's sister. Money please, like that girl, the spoiled sister to John Ralphio. But they were married, and she voices Marcel.
Okay.
And they made that, and it just kind of blew up, and it got a lot of attention, and then it kind of faded away. And then A24 basically was like, "Hey, you want to do this and like make a whole thing?"
No kidding.
Yeah.
Wow.
So the story is basically
you're gonna have to contact A24. I got a ton of ideas, man.
So it's almost like kind of like reminds me of Toy Story a little bit, where these background things that people don't notice.
Yeah.
But it's not like one of those things where they go out of their way to not exist.
Yeah.
So Dean Fleischer Camp's character notices the guy, and then he's like, "Oh, I make a documentary and all that." But Marcel the Shell is just this kid who lives with his grandmother, Nana Connie, who is
she's a bigger shell.
She is a bigger shell. She's actually voiced by a famous actress that I'm catching a blank on the name. I'm looking at Isabella Rossellini.
Oh, yeah, she's well known.
Yeah, and so the backstory basically is Marcel the Shell has lost his community of shells because these people in this house they started fighting, and they had this shelter in place plan where people they would all fight because things would get broken and like their
shelter.
Yeah, they
in place.
They would have this little plan where they would hide away, and because their houses would get broken down, and because they lived in like plant pots or stuff like that. And basically the story goes, spoilers, Nana Connie and Marcel, their favorite thing to do would watch 60 Minutes because they like Leslie Stahl.
Wow.
Okay. So they didn't they were watching the thing, and they didn't hear the fight or whatever, and they all go to the sock drawer, which is where their shelter was. But that was like the final fight, and the guy throws this sock drawer into the suitcase and takes off with all the the shell community and his family.
Oh no!
So he lives alone with his grandma for like 2 years.
Oh
and
man!
They have to learn how to survive together without all their people, and they have to innovate ways to stay alive. And his grandmother becomes a little farmer, and knocks off books over the shelf and like reads like things like that.
This is very interesting.
And it's really
it's
good.
a small story,
Yeah.
pun intended.
Yeah.
But yeah, very interesting.
You know,
Wow.
it's a PG film, but it's very adult. It, you know, deals a lot with like themes of loss and like themes of
of course, I get that.
continuing and persisting in the face of like hardship and you know and he makes this documentary about Marcel Lachelle, and it's just he's so naive and all that, and he's like one of the lines he's like, okay, give me some levels. He's like, what's levels? He's like, oh yeah, just talk. He's like he starts like like just talking about nonsense. He's like, you ever have a raspberry? What's that like? It's like little things like that.
Interesting. Okay.
The whole documentary basically is just talk about him, but then it kind of incorporates the Dean character, and it gets blown up on YouTube, and so that's when the 60
in the movie.
Yeah, and that's when like the 60 Minutes like CBS like contacts them, and
oh really?
Yeah.
So they get to be on the show that they've actually watched.
Yeah. So, but before all that happens, because it gets blown up, and he's trying to find his family.
Yeah.
He's putting out these videos to like ask for help and stuff, but instead, all he finds is basically a bunch of like TikTokers and stuff coming to his house and like blowing up like the area and all that.
Oh wow.
And then at one point they kind of go out on a drive because Marcel Lachelle thinks that the world's so small that he could just go up in a high place and look out and find the dude's car who like took off and all that.
Oh
and
wow.
Then he learns that the world's pretty like big.
Yeah.
And then he comes back and he sees a bunch of people in the yard and all that, and he goes in the house, and his grandmother had an accident and the shell gets broken and all this stuff.
Oh man.
So he freaks out. And he's like, oh, I don't want all this attention. And that's when CBS calls, and he's like, no. And grandma's like, no, you got to do it.
Yeah.
And
this is such a nice story.
Yeah. And then she's,
it's heartwarming.
He doesn't want to like, burden her or like not burden, but put more attention and risk another accident or something.
Mm-hmm.
And he's worried about her health and all that. So then she fakes like being better in order to get him to like step forward and like actually take the risk. Yeah.
Okay.
And
just to coax him a little bit.
Without going into like the ending and all that, because it's I would like you guys to see it. It's very good. It's really just about dealing with loss.
Yeah.
Pursuing and keeping like keep going forward in the face
persistence.
Of persistence. Yeah. And taking risks in life when it seems like you don't want things to change. And one of my favorite quotes, he's like, and guess why I smile all the time? And he's like, why? He's like, because it's worth it.
Not bad. Yeah, that's
really
sweet.
good. Yeah.
That's sweet. All right, that's cool. That has a nice, cool message.
And they have like this little heart to heart with his grandmother and Marcel, and he's like crying. He's like, well, what if things change? And she's like, well, it will.
Wait, what was that?
He's like, because he's like, I don't want to do this, but like, what if things change? And then she's like, well, it will.
Yeah.
And that's like the whole point. It's
like,
you can't be
Pretty much.
afraid of the change in life and the risk you take. And
well, things always change, so you kind of have to go with the.
It's very humanizing. It's very adult themed, but like PG.
Yeah. It's dealing with these actual issues. It sounds like a good film for kind of young adults, young kids, kind of transitioning, getting older and stuff like that, and dealing with these kind of hard life themes. I think that's awesome.
I think like not just young adults, I think like adults too.
Oh well, yeah, adults too,
like dealing with the loss of like your caretaker or your person, or like and your family in general, and then becoming this independent creature and stepping out in the world and
navigating those emotions. Yeah, that's interesting. That's very, very interesting. There's a lot to learn from that.
Yeah, it's really
not bad, man. I like that. That's cool. That has a very, very honest, very wholesome message.
Yeah, it's up for they got the requirements to be up in consideration for best animated feature.
Yeah.
So I think that's interesting.
Okay.
It's very well done stop motion in terms of production value.
Yeah.
And it it has.
Well, they've gotten better throughout the years.
Well, yeah. But it also like incorporates live action too, so it's not just like the whole Gumby bullshit. It's very well done.
Yeah. Okay. Cool, man.
Yeah.
Not bad. All right. So I got to check it out now. It piqued my interest.
Yeah. I don't know if it's going to come out in the streaming anytime soon, but
okay. Well, yeah, it just came out in theaters.
Yeah, about a month ago. Yeah, very limited release, and then it came out worldwide, and then it hasn't like done great, but I imagine the budget was pretty small. So marketing hasn't been quite there for it.
Yeah, I'm guessing
Agent 4 has a bunch
it's
of other stuff
it's
that's
well,
going
it's
on. Yeah.
independent.
Yeah.
It's an indie. It doesn't have these big studios behind it. Disney's not behind it or anything like that. So you know, um, it's probably one of those you have to look for it. You have to be interested in that and say, all right, I'm gonna take my family, I'm gonna take my kids to go watch it. But it's
Yeah.
not something that's really out there. But yeah, it sounds like a good ride, man. It
Yeah.
sounds like
I
a
wouldn't
good.
take too young of the kids though, because they're not gonna get it.
Yeah. They have to
Yeah.
be kind of
And it's
at the
kind of
right age
it's
to
a little bit of
understand
a
that.
slow ride too.
Yeah.
It's a short film, about an hour and a half, but it's gonna
Yeah.
have a little bit of a slow burn, and
Okay.
there's not much like climax or action going on. It's very
Right.
just like this happens, and then
Yeah.
boom, and like that sucks.
Yeah.
And
It's
then
an internal journey.
yeah,
Yeah. Okay. That's cool. That's good enough.
yeah,
That's good enough. All right. Cool, man. So yeah, Marcel the Shell with shoes on.
with shoes on. Yeah,
All right. All right. Check that out. All right. So I've got two that I want to talk about.
Okay.
Very, very short. But I saw The Gray Man. It was a action film on Netflix. Starred Ryan Gosling and Chris Evans.
okay,
Awesome summer popcorn action film. Um, Ryan Gosling plays this operative. He's a hitman. He's a bodyguard. He's kind of like a knockaround guy. Like he does that type of work. Kind of get shit done. An
similar
assassin
to like
type.
Drive.
Not quite.
Not as
Drive
not
Drive
as-
is more of a heist type of a movie. This guy deals with like high espionage type
Okay.
stuff. Like they'll send him in to like get like an important thumb drive that has some valuable information that nobody can see, kind of stuff. And he's one of those guys that gets his hands dirty. Like he'll get the job done.
Yeah,
He's
like
he's
no
one of those.
questions. just
Right,
do it.
right,
Yeah.
exactly. He's very stoic type character.
Okay.
But yeah, man, it was just a fun ride. It's done by the Russo brothers,
Okay.
who
Yeah.
of course directed, the Avengers, Infinity War, Endgame,
Community.
Community as well. They started off with Community. They also did Arrested Development too.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they did Arrested Development. So the Russo brothers are the directors for Marvel. They did Civil War, the Avengers Civil War,
Winter Soldier.
yeah, Winter Soldier. They did all of that stuff. So they shot this, and it's just a fun action movie. It has, like I said, Ryan Gosling, Chris Evans, a couple of other people. Billy Bob Thornton is in the film.
Nice. Yeah. Cool.
Yeah, there's a couple of surprises. Ana de Armas, who is the Spanish actress who is
Plays
playing
Joy.
She's playing Marilyn Monroe.
Right.
In another film. Yeah, she plays Joy
And Blade Runner.
in Blade Runner.
Yeah.
Yes, that's right. And she was in Knives Out as well. And in James Bond. Man, she's been all over the place.
Interesting that her and Ryan Gosling come back together in a movie.
They do come back together, which I thought was pretty funny since Blade Runner.
And Ryan Gosling's kind of been out of the picture for a while.
He has been. He's been kind of just laying low. And now he comes back with this. And it's a cool ride. It's a fun movie. Nothing. There's no big message or anything like that. Yeah, it's nice popcorn flick. It's something to put on Netflix when you're bored and you just want to watch something that's entertaining.
Yeah.
Chris Evans plays a very, very good bad guy. He plays this pompous, arrogant. He plays the opposite of Captain America. Like if Captain America was an a-hole. He plays that character in this movie, and it's fun to watch him. He plays a villain, and he's just petty. He's just an ass, man. Yeah, and it's fun to watch him. Like after seeing him play the goody two shoes for so long, watching him play this guy and just like be very petty at some of the smallest things, it's freaking hilarious.
I love to see like a multiverse version of Steve Rogers, where he's just kind of like this,
where he would play. Yeah, that would be great if he pulled this character out and it was just like the opposite Hydra version of Captain America. But no, it was fun. A lot of surprise cameos in this film. So I definitely recommend it. That gets 3.5 stars for me. So it's a good watch.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is this
Let's
on
see.
Netflix?
Yes, it is on
Okay.
Netflix.
Oh, and I would give Marcel a show a 4 to 4.
4 stars.
Yeah.
Nice. Okay. And another one that I've been watching recently is Westworld. I don't know if you've seen that.
I've tipped my toe,
Right.
but not dove in.
Okay.
So I kind of understand the presence. It's like a Western, cyberpunk dystopian type of
Yes.
thing.
Correct. Correct.
With androids and
Yes. Yes. Very interesting. It's
I know this new season has been getting a lot of great reviews.
yeah, the new
season.
season. And I was kind of tired of it after the third season. I thought that was going to be the end, but I was surprised when they were doing the fourth season and they continued it because the third season kind of
it
wrapped
did a
things
while
up.
too, right?
It had been a while. It's been
Yeah.
about maybe more than roughly about a year, close to 2 years since they came out with anything new. But I did like when it first started off. The first three seasons were fantastic. It's based on a Michael Crichton.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Michael Crichton wrote and directed this. Of course, those who don't know, Michael Crichton is the genius behind Jurassic Park and a couple of other intellectual properties. He's Michael Crichton was like a bit of a renaissance man. If you look him up,
Is he like the Jack Ryan guy too, or no?
no, that's not Jack Ryan. That's another author. I
Okay.
forget the name. But Michael Crichton wrote a lot of sci-fi.
Yeah.
And he wrote the Jurassic Park novels.
Yeah.
He was also very, very well-known and successful film director back in the 70s. So he was a bit of a renaissance man. He did everything. The guy would shoot, he would be his own cinematographer sometimes. He would direct, he would produce,
Yeah.
he would write novels. Most of them sci-fi.
I read the original Jurassic Park. It was actually really good.
Yeah, man. So the guy, he was certainly onto something. So Westworld was kind of a Jurassic Park for androids, where he was fascinated by human beings creating amusement parks for things that shouldn't be amusement parks, right? So very similar to how Jurassic Park, where human beings take technology to a certain level and they create an amusement park for us with dinosaurs in it. Same thing, Westworld.
Kind of goes into the exploitation theme.
An exploitation thing, right? Where
To
you
note,
create an amusement park that shouldn't be done, where shit goes wrong. Same thing. Westworld is this world where the hosts, which are the androids, it's kind of like stepping into a live video game, basically. Like he saw things, he was kind of ahead of his time. So similarly, how people go online and play GTA, and you can do whatever you want in GTA. You can drive a Lamborghini and then shoot up a liquor store if you want, and then you have a bunch of NPCs, non-player characters that you can shoot up and do whatever you want with. The androids are those NPCs. You're just doing it physically, real life. So Westworld is where you go into this town, and it's a Western town. So it's like playing Red Dead Redemption or something like that. And there's a ton of NPCs that are androids, and you can shoot them in the head and do whatever the hell you want with them.
But they're like AI, right? So they have some kind of
right.
autonomy.
So this is the part that goes wrong. This is way, way far into the future. So far into the future that these robots are indistinguishable from actual human beings. They're like replicants, kind of like in Blade Runner, right? Where you can't tell the difference what's a robot and what's not unless you break one open, and you see the metal skeleton inside.
Interesting.
But they have flesh, they sweat, and all this stuff. So it makes it very surreal, and you can't tell the difference. The problem happens when they start to develop consciousness while people are in the park, and then these androids start to rebel, and then just like Jurassic Park, shit goes wrong. And everything goes haywire. But in this new series, they follow that same premise, but they get much, much deeper. They go into consciousness and society. It gets very philosophical, which I appreciate. It's just not surface level sci-fi and action and like, oh no, the robots are coming to kill us. No, it actually goes into more much more deeper stuff, and they're talking about human consciousness and
Kind of like what
how
it
that
means to
comes
be
up.
a human being, and
What does it
yeah,
mean to be a human
yeah,
being, and are robots that different from us?
right.
And then it shows humanity in a darker light, because the humans that go to this park just go there and do atrocious things, completely atrocious things, and the series shows that. And then the robots end up looking more human than the humans do.
Or what a human should be, or
Right, what a
yeah,
human should be,
what we think,
which is
and
a
what morality
which is a
is,
flip.
and then
Right,
yeah,
because then you end up identifying more so with the robots, and
yeah,
you're like, well, yeah, fuck the humans, and it makes you root
yeah.
for the robots, which is very interesting. It's very smartly done. And then I found out that uh, Jonathan Nolan, who's Christopher Nolan's brother,
Mhm.
wrote and created the new version. He took what Michael Crichton started
So
and
was it
created
a
this.
book at first?
Yeah, it's a
Oh,
book,
okay.
and it was actually a book and a movie that came out back in the
Oh,
70s.
that's right. Yeah,
Right,
I've heard about
and
that.
then
Yeah.
yeah, Joseph Nolan took that property and just reinvented it for something much more modern,
Okay.
and he's done a great job. So the fourth season, which is going to be the last season, um, is very, very interesting, because the robots, of course, have uh, reached consciousness, and now that consciousness is spreading because they're kind of teaching each other, and they're beginning to replace human beings, and they've broken out of the park, and now it's kind of like it has a little bit of Invasion of the Body Snatchers type of vibe, where they come into reality, they've come into the real world, they've escaped the park, they come into the real world, and they're starting to take like politicians and important people, and they're killing the real people and replacing them with robot lookalikes. And it's like it has a little bit of like Invasion of the Body Snatchers now.
Hmm.
So, and it's like this little mystery, and then this whole thing of like, you don't know who's human, you don't know who's a robot, who's been replaced, has a president been replaced, like what's going on. So now only certain people know what's happening, and they're trying to stop it if they can, but it
But
doesn't look good.
it's contained in this little shell of an environment, though, right? Or is it
No,
spill it spills out?
it spills out. So
Yeah.
season 4 is it spilling out,
Yeah. Spoiler.
and yeah, spoiler, season 4 is about it spilling out, and them trying to do something about it if they can.
Okay.
Yeah, but it doesn't look too promising.
I think that's an interesting concept too, because people will say like the human brain is like the smartest computer that exists, right?
Right,
So we consider it like a computer, right?
right,
So then, what really is a human being? It's just like
right, and
yeah,
that's the question.
yeah,
That's the question. Are robots better human beings than human beings are?
yeah.
That it plays around with that concept. It gets super philosophical, little too deep sometimes, because I can tell. So it might not be for everybody, but it's very, very well done.
Okay.
Yeah.
Have to check it out for sure. It's at HBO, right? I believe.
Yes, it
Yeah.
is on HBO.
Okay.
Yeah.
All
So
right.
yeah. So, but yeah, that's as far as I got for a movie talk.
That's all. That's what you got.
Yep.
Okay. I got one more. I think that would be good.
Mm.
It just popped up on Netflix because it was nominated for an Emmy, which
Okay.
is Midnight Mass.
Okay. Yeah.
And that's why I looked this up. Do, 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 do. Oh, did we just lose our feed?
Mm.
Oh, we're still there. Oh, we're gonna lose it though. Okay, well, give me a second, and then
We'll be right back.
it'd be awesome to give them
All right, everyone, we're back, and somehow Nick
I
is
had
going
to go for a quick swim.
I guess so.
So, you know, I just got out of a Guillermo del Toro movie.
You're a weirdo.
Well, gotta be in life, right? You gotta
Oh, my
make light
God.
of things before I get raccoon eyes.
Oh my God! Yeah.
No, I was just
All
moving
right.
some stuff around, and I found those earlier, and I'm
Yeah.
just playing around.
That's funny.
Yeah. So Midnight Mass. I was looking up the
Yeah.
actor who plays the priest.
Yeah,
in that.
I've seen him around a couple times. I don't know his name.
Yeah. So.
Yeah.
Bear with
Plays
me.
a creepy guy all the time.
For our one loyal viewer who's been sitting there the whole time, Hamish Linklater
Hmm.
is the actor who plays the Father Paul Hill.
Linklater.
Yeah, not
Is he related?
Not of relation to Richard.
No relation.
So this series popped up, and it's from the creators of The Haunting of Hill House.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Let me see what that guy's name is. Mike Flanagan.
Okay.
It's this little short series, 7 episodes, I believe.
Okay.
And it takes place in this island. I want to say like off the Pacific Northwest.
Okay.
It's very isolated community. It's very fisherman town based and all that.
Okay.
And basically the premise is this community is like super Catholic, and their priest goes off on this like sabbatical
It's
journey.
already scary.
Yeah. Goes off on a sabbatical journey. He's like very older, much older.
Yeah.
He's been like the town priest for 60 years or something like that.
Okay.
And like the whole congregation sends him off on this journey before he's too old to go anywhere, and he goes and follows basically Jesus' footsteps in the Holy Land, and he comes across this like cave where he thinks he meets an angel. But it's it's dark and very spooky.
Okay.
And
yeah, because that's where angels hang out.
And when you see this, you're like, that's not an angel. Like, no way.
Yeah.
And it basically spoilers because it's gonna get in a little bit.
Yeah.
Basically kills him. Like eats his neck like a vampire, and then the creature like slits his own wrists and then feeds him his blood, and then resurrects him.
Oh.
And when he gets resurrected, he comes back as his prime self when he was like in his 20s.
No shit.
So he comes back to this town as this new pastor and kind of tricks the whole town. And
oh wow,
he has these new kind of not abilities, but it's when you see it later in the series, they see things differently. They're basically vampires.
Interesting.
What it is.
Interesting.
But it goes into these like very deep like Catholic religious themes.
Yeah.
And this town's like basically just snowed by this guy, and they all kind of like turn against each other and like in their pursuit of this like the truth or the knowledge, and like these very ultra religious people that like
really
run the church. And
this definitely sounds interesting.
Yeah, and it's one of those like series where you can't really get attached to any character because the ones you think are going to be the main characters aren't.
Yeah.
And at the end of it, it's very you're like, holy shit, like that happened.
Wow.
It's not. I thought it'd be scarier than it was.
Yeah. But it's more creepy than scary.
It's more creepy. There's some moments you're like, holy shit, that just happened.
Yeah.
But like any good horror movie or horror series, it's the people
right
that are the ones that are the
people that are the monsters.
Yeah.
Always the case.
And their pursuit of this ultra religious and Catholic belief system, they give themselves to the evil, which they believe to be a savior. And they become
blindly following without question.
Yeah. And because
message
and like the main character who Hamish Linklater plays, he believes that this ties into the resurrection of Jesus Christ because he was resurrected, and he like believes that this is humanity's savior, is his he becomes basically the creature's pawn into converting all these other people into this thing.
Well, that is interesting.
But also at the end, he becomes like not even like the bad person, because it's the ones that follow the church and follow him become the ones that like screw up his plan and like actually are the ones that cause the destruction of the entire town.
No kidding.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. All right. I got to put another one on my list here.
Yeah.
This sounds pretty interesting. I've seen it pop up a couple times. I didn't pay any attention to it. But now that it's you've seen it, you're giving it some good reviews. Somebody else I know gave it some good reviews. So okay,
It
check it
goes
out.
into like also like the questioning of indoctrination
Yeah.
and like questioning your beliefs. Like it opens up, spoilers, with this guy who is from the town, and this is a guy who had left and like started like working in startup tech companies and all that.
Yeah.
And he was like a major alcoholic and got in a car accident where he killed the girl in the car,
Mm-hmm.
and he survived.
Yeah.
And he's sitting there looking at her body, and he's like praying, and like the cop that's like looking at him, making taking his like look at the pupils and all that. As he's praying, he's like, "Yeah, why don't you say one for like for her?" He's like, "Why is it always the drunks that live with scrapes while the young kids die?" And so like
Oh.
as he's doing that prayer, that's when that happens, and then he like basically starts to, he goes to prison for 4 years, and he just loses his, he just like screw that, like I'm not a part of that anymore. So he
Wow.
comes back as like this faithless dude, and like that's kind of like the whole thing. He kind of like is in the series most of it,
Yeah.
and it just goes into like all that like questioning and like trying to figure out like where your place is, and like it talks
Huh.
a lot about death,
Yeah.
people's like expectations of death,
Yeah.
and how like religion started and all
Well,
that.
yeah. I mean, the majority of religion started because it's about
Yeah.
death and morality. Where do you go after all this? How should you behave?
And there's a
That
scene
kind
where
of thing.
he takes this like his love interest out into the, like the ocean in a little rowboat, and he's it's like towards the end, and he's talking about how it all probably started, where he's saying like hunter gatherers where at night they would have to make a campfire, and then like when it was dark out they would see other little campfires in the hills and all that, and then they would look up to the sky and see these little lights that they had no idea what it was. They had
Yeah.
no concept of space, no concept of like
Yeah.
out there, and they'd be like, oh, who are making those campfires, and what's all that
Right.
about?
Simple
Who
thinking. Yeah.
and who are these powerful people that have made these? And that's kind of like the idea of where
Interesting.
like you have to answer a question. So that's where like these
You ask questions. Right.
crazy
Right.
beliefs
Curiosity.
started. Yeah,
Now that is deep.
yeah.
Okay. All right.
It's very monologue heavy.
Yeah.
A lot of like slow pace, and then boom, something happens, and then it's like slow pace, and then boom, something happens.
Okay. So it's kind of a
Yeah.
slow burn.
But
Right.
it was nominated for an Emmy. Hamish Linklater got nominated for Best Actor in that series,
Mm.
and I would give it a chance.
I'm gonna give it a
It's
shot.
about like 45 minutes each
Yeah.
episode.
Only 7 episodes.
Yeah, only 7. It's
I
limited
could run through
series,
that in a
yeah.
week. Okay.
But very well acted, very well done, very well shot.
Yeah.
Too. The
Okay.
cinematography is great.
Okay.
It does a lot of like, I think it seems like it. I don't know because I haven't looked up like too much of the details, but it seems like a lot of natural lighting.
Yeah.
Because it's like shot on an island.
Yeah.
There's a lot of night scenes. And
Okay.
stuff like that. And there's a lot of like being on the open water.
Interesting.
The whole fisherman vibe like takes a big precedence to it too.
Yeah.
So very, very interesting. I would definitely
Okay.
give it a shot.
All right. Cool. Cool. All right. You've just convinced me.
Yeah.
Thanks. That's awesome. All right. Cool, man. All right. So what was it called again?
Midnight Mass.
Midnight Mass.
Yeah.
All right. I'm gonna check it out. It's on
Definitely.
Netflix. All right. Cool. All right. So on to our last subject here. All right. So future releases, trailers, and anything coming up.
Yeah.
All right. So I've got a couple here. First one is very interesting that I want to see is Blonde.
Okay.
Now this one is starring Ana de Almas, the Spanish actress that we were just talking about. She was in The Gray Man with Ryan Gosling. She was also Joy. She's been playing these kind of side characters for a very, very long time, but she can rock those characters. She always makes those characters very, very interesting. So she is playing Marilyn Monroe, and this is a Marilyn Monroe biopic based on a novel, and it looks freaking great. Now, she's been getting a lot of flack about this from fans. Well, no, they're not fans, but from the public, and it's mostly because of her accent. She is from Spain.
They don't think that she can pull off.
No, but you can hear a little bit of the
a
accent.
1940s Maryland.
Correct. I mean, she's an actress. I mean, that's part of her job.
Yeah.
She has to, she has to do that.
And they have people out there that is their job to make sure that they do.
To train, yeah, it's voice, the trainers that do
I mean,
that.
it'd be like saying that, at the time they'd be like, oh, like how is Viggo Mortensen going to be Aragorn?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think that's it's ridiculous. She's been getting a lot of hate because of that, because she's Latin, playing this American woman. And there is a slight accent there, which I get. For those who don't know, a lot of Spaniards have a lisp, so they've been giving her a lot of shit because of her speech. But you know, uh, actually, for in her defense, the Monroe, the family of Marilyn Monroe or her estate, actually think that she did a great job. They're giving her a thumbs up.
Oh, so
And
they've seen this already.
yeah,
Is it a series or movie?
no, this is a movie.
Movie. Okay.
Yeah, this is a movie, a theatrical, release movie, and they're saying, "Hey, don't pay attention to them. We think you're doing great in honoring Marilyn Monroe
Yeah.
and her character." And yeah, they just gave her a thumbs up. So they're just like, "Yeah, just don't pay attention to that nonsense."
Yeah, I think that's like I think it's bullshit.
Yeah,
Like the whole the idea of like also it's like so in broader sense, people would say, oh, like Spanish people are white, right? And then when it comes down
right,
to the nitty gritty, you're like, oh, but not really.
right. And that's
Yeah.
the thing. And then now
Yeah.
they're splitting hairs, and it's
Yeah.
just like, come on, man, like it's kind of ridiculous at
Yeah.
this point.
It's like an actor's
But-
job is their that's their job is to portray it like whether it's a person that existed or a new character.
That's
that,
what
you
they're
know,
supposed
yeah,
to
that's
do.
what they're supposed to do.
Yeah, man.
You know.
Yeah.
And maybe there's also like this weird like circumstance surrounding Marilyn Monroe as a person and the whole like
There's a lot of controversy.
yeah, the whole kind of like there's a myth surrounding her too and in her existence. And,
Right.
But it's interesting that people kind of come out of the woodwork that probably never even gave a shit and now they're giving a shit.
Right,
And,
that's what I'm
yeah.
saying. And they're nitpicking very, very small kind of stuff. You know what I mean? That's where you see, and you see these are the same people that were giving a whole lot of hate, to Moses Ingram. Like you see them pop up, come out of the woodwork over just some of the smallest things, and they're not looking at all the hard work that the actors actually putting in. And I think that's really, really unfair, man.
Yeah.
I think she's doing, from what I've seen from some of the short clips, I think she's doing a great job. As Marilyn Monroe, I think she looks very, very close to Marilyn.
Is there a trailer out for it?
There is a
Okay, I'll
trailer
check it
out. Yeah. And I think she looks very, very close to Marilyn. I think she's doing a phenomenal job.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, that's out. I'm gonna check it out. It's Bobby Cannavale is in this film as well. Let's see, it's directed by Andrew Dominic, and he's only directed a handful of independent films. Killing Them Softly with Brad Pitt, that came out in 2012. That was a great film. And The Assassination of Jesse James by the coward Robert Ford. That was another great film. Very slow burn, but very well told, very well shot. The cinematography in there is amazing.
Okay. So you said this is an indie?
Yeah, this is a
what's the company?
I don't know. I didn't.
Okay,
Yeah, I didn't
well,
check that. But it's
let's,
called Blonde.
It's called Blonde.
Yes.
Okay. We'll look it up.
Yeah.
And while I'm looking it up, I will say too, it'll be almost like how people. I remember when they gave Kristen Stewart a bunch of flack for playing Diana.
Yeah, that's right.
But then she came out and did an excellent job.
Right, that's right. Yeah, they did the same thing. Yeah, so it's nonsense, man. I don't like when people do that.
And I think it's just like it kind of goes and touts on like the state of our environment and like I would say this country in particular.
Yeah.
With all this divisiveness that's been going around.
Yeah.
And the us versus them and what basically just comes down to bigotry.
Separation.
And
it comes down to separation rather than bringing somebody in and including somebody.
And to like give an example of like a contemporary like it's coming out soon too is like, well, where's all the same flack that's going around for like the movie, the show or movie? I think it's movie Prey.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, why aren't they upset that?
Well, wait for it.
Yeah.
Just wait for it.
Yeah.
It's probably going to come out. It's probably going to come out. Yeah.
Well,
I think the same thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's see here. So.
Yeah.
So it's produced by Brad Pitt too. Interesting.
Oh, nice. Okay,
Yeah.
well that works. That's cool.
Chase Urban is the cinematographer, and the production company is Plan B Entertainment.
Oh yeah, so that's Brad Pitt's production.
Okay.
Yeah, Plan
Nice.
B.
Interesting
Okay.
name.
Yeah. So it makes sense because Brad Pitt has worked with the director in 2 films already.
Nice.
So yeah, so I think he has a lot to do with that. But yeah, awesome.
Yeah, I like that Brad Pitt is putting out these projects and kind of diving into.
Yeah, man, and
these,
that's typically how it goes in Hollywood. Like you start off as being a headliner or an actor, being in front of the camera, and a lot of the times they just end up being executive producers or directors.
Yeah.
To be honest, And I think that's awesome, man. Like you get to a certain point where you just become too old and you just don't want to be in front of the camera anymore.
Yeah.
So you rather support new projects,
Right.
and help new people come in.
And especially too, because like a lot of these guys are probably filmmakers at heart, and they have
Yeah.
things they want to do, and
Yeah, of course.
they get into this business whether they're an actor or not, and
Yeah.
because they want to tell a story.
After so
Yeah.
many years, yeah,
Getting-
after so many years, you kind of just want to stop being the vessel
Yeah.
of the story, and you want to create the story. You want to be behind it and say, I want to be part of this world building and facilitate that.
Yeah. And I think like he probably would get a lot of flack too, because a lot of people think that Brad Pitt's just like this pretty boy actor who
Right.
they don't actually watch his movie because he has a lot of range and he has a lot of like skill.
He does have a lot of range. Yeah.
It's not just
awesome.
it's not just the facade that you see. It's the it's the intellectual part. And
He if you follow his career, man, have you seen 12 Monkeys?
Yeah.
Okay. You remember his character in 12 Monkeys? He's not a pretty boy.
Yeah.
He's not a hero either. He plays this weird, super weird character.
Right.
So the guy has range, man. So but yeah, Blonde looks good. Anna de Armas is killing it. This is her first lead role.
Nice.
And it's about time because she's been playing a lot of side characters
Yeah.
For a very long time. But
And
she's a
that's gonna be
solid.
her second movie coming out. It's this year, right?
Yeah, it is this year.
Yeah.
That's correct.
Is it theatrical or is it going to be?
It is theatrical.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's a big deal, and she's playing one of the most known Hollywood actresses in history. She's playing Marilyn Monroe. So this is going to be huge for her.
This is September 28th. So
Okay, cool. Yeah. So a lot of stuff coming out in the fall. All right. So next one up, one that I find very interesting, and I'm probably going to go on a little rant about this, is a biopic about Philip K. Dick. You know who that is?
I don't.
Okay. Philip K. Dick was a very prolific sci-fi writer. And basically he wrote a lot of short stories and a lot of novels that they made movies out of. Just to give you an example, he has written movies. Well, they're not. He hasn't written movies, but he's written the stories that a lot of these movies were adapted from. And one most famously is Blade Runner.
Okay.
So Philip K. Dick is the author of Blade Runner.
Okay.
He created that world.
The Androids Who Dream of Sleep.
That's correct. Yeah. He created that world. So Blade Runner, Total Recall, Minority Report, Scanner Darkly, The Adjustment Bureau.
Oh, Scanner
Darkly. The Matrix, The Man in the High Castle, which is a series on Hulu about if the oh, hey, how's it going? Which is a series on Hulu, which is about if the Americans, if the Nazis won World War II.
Yeah,
it's alternate history.
Still going, I think, right?
I think it is still going. Yeah, so it's an alternate history. And Philip K. Dick is a very interesting character if you look into his life story. He would have these psychedelic I would say, how people have seizures? He would have like psychedelic kind of seizures or outbursts or things like that, where without taking any psychedelics, without taking acid or mushrooms, anything like that, he would go into a different world. He talked heavily about the multiverse, and he spoke about it like it's a real thing, and he's experienced this. Like his mind has gone to other worlds. And that's the majority of what he wrote about. And I implore you to Google him and look up some stuff, some videos that were spoken about him, or where he actually talks about his experience and where his stories come from. It's creepy, but it's fascinating. This guy actually thought that his mind would go into these multiverses and he would come back and write about them. He thought that everything that he wrote about, whether it's Blade Runner, Minority Report, Total Recall, these were actual worlds that he tapped into. He was kind of a little crazy
without the use of substances.
Yeah. From the story, from what I hear, fascinating stuff. He at one point his wife was giving birth. This is a crazy story. His wife was giving birth, and he had like a psychic premonition about a specific problem that the baby was going to have. So he rushed his wife to the hospital, and then the doctor went in and did like a sonogram, and he's like, "Oh, thank God, because your baby was about to like die. He had the cord wrapped around his neck." Like his story is very very weird, to the point where you actually start believing like this. Did this guy really have some kind of strange powers or something? Like what's going on? So they're doing a biopic. He is an interesting character, so I'm glad that they're doing a biopic on him. And he's one of those authors that has written so much stuff that his work kind of has taken on a life of its own, and people have forgotten who he is. Nobody knows who he is as an author, but he has inspired movies like The Matrix and all of these sci-fi movies that modern times are
and
huge,
they've consumed his work without knowing that
without knowing who this guy really is.
like Blade Runner.
So I'm glad, So I'm glad that he's actually getting the attention that he deserves.
Okay.
So yeah, so they're doing a biopic, and the biopic is going to be just as weird as he is. So it's gonna be strange. Alfonso Cuarón
Okay.
is directing this.
Awesome.
Yes, and I am a fan of Alfonso.
Yeah. We just talked about Y Tu Mamá También.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. And Alfonso is great at some sci-fi stuff. I loved well, I forget the name of that movie with Clive Owen. Children of Men.
Yeah, that's a great movie.
That's a great
Yeah.
freaking film, man. So so he's handling this. It's going to be a little surreal. It's going to be a little weird, but I'm ready for it. And yeah, it's about it's about Philip K. Dick's life and his dead sister, which is part of his story. Again, there's too much of the story, that I can't really, I don't have the time to go into.
Yeah.
But Philip K. Dick had a twin sister, and the twin sister died at childbirth.
Okay.
And according to Philip K. Dick, for some reason, he's always felt like he can tap into her consciousness, which is creepy and weird.
It kind of pops up though every now and then with people who have that experience.
Right.
Yeah.
I've heard that before. So this is going to be included into the film. Is going to be a part of it. Like I said, it's weird, but it fits him.
Well, it has to be weird
it fits his
because
story.
It has to be true, right? That's yeah. Well, I mean, like the story about him has to be told
through his eyes, right? And they're going to keep it true to his weirdness.
Who's playing Philip?
I don't know.
We don't know.
Yeah, it hasn't been said yet, but this is what's in the news, and this is up and coming.
Is it in production? Is it pre?
It's in pre-production right now. It's
Pre-production?
not in production. So,
Okay.
but yeah, it seems very interesting. And those who are sci-fi heads like myself, and know about Philip K. Dick, or if you don't know about Philip K. Dick and you're very very into sci-fi, I suggest you Google this and Google him. Very interesting, very fascinating.
But I see on the thing you have written there is Charlize Theron is attached to it.
Charlize Theron is attached. She's going to be playing the sister.
Okay.
Again, which is strange.
It's titled Jane, which probably is the
sister.
Right.
Yeah. Which is yeah. So I don't know. I don't know how they're going to approach it.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I really hope that because I love Alfonso Cuarón's style.
Yeah.
He does a lot of like this interesting stuff where, at least in his older works, where he pays attention to the stuff that's off the camera.
Yes.
Off the scene.
Yeah.
Which ties into the story
right.
overall. But I wonder if, because it's a biopic, that kind of thing will come through, or will it be?
Again, it's going to be weird. It is going to be very, very weird, because I've learned about Philip K. Dick for a number of years now, and I've seen some other stuff on YouTube. Again, it is fascinating. It's like a spiral. You just, the more you know, the more you're just like, what the hell? So I'm interested in seeing how Cuarón is going to tell this story. And I think he's a perfect director for this, to be honest. But yeah, it's just going to be interesting. It's going to be a little surreal, and it'll probably be meta as well, because Philip K. Dick dealt with mind-bending stuff, like what's reality, like
Yeah.
let's if you look at like a lot of the stuff that he's written, it's always about pushing the boundaries of what's reality, what's human, all this
Yeah.
kind of stuff.
I hope
So
they tie in, bring up like what he's created for us
I hope so.
in our love for movies and
Right.
stories. And
Right. I hope so. Yeah, I hope they finally
Yeah.
get him the recognition that he
So,
deserves.
did he when did he die before Blade Runner came out, or did?
I think he died before all of that
Okay.
happened. Yeah, I think all of that. Yeah, yeah. I have to check the times, but I think he died before that came
Because he
out.
wrote that the book was "Do Androids Dream of
Of Electric Sheep.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was always questioning consciousness and reality.
Which was a short story, I believe.
It
Right?
was a majority of what he wrote were short stories.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
kind of like some of the best that come out though, are shorts.
That's true, and they were so good that or at the time, the stuff that he wrote was kind of pushing the envelope. No one
Yeah.
has ever thought about stuff like that.
Like all the Stephen King stuff was short.
Yeah,
Yeah.
a lot of the Stephen King stuff was short too. Yeah, yeah. So it's it just serves to be inspiring, interesting, intellectual stuff, intellectual material. And if it's good enough, you're gonna have some filmmakers say, "All right, I want to do that." So I think that's pretty cool. But that's as far as like future releases and trailers, that's really all I've got. The last thing I want to talk about is that there seems to be a fantasy wars
Yeah, you mentioned it earlier.
kind of coming up. We're gonna have the House of the Dragon, which is the prequel to Game of Thrones, where they're going to talk about the Targaryens. The House of the Targaryens. Targaryen. Targaryen. So that is interesting.
Yeah.
I know a little bit of the story behind that. I know about like the what's happened before. It is very interesting. I don't know where they're going to go with it, but yeah, it seems like we're going to have the House of the Dragon and Lord of the Rings, the Rings of Power.
Yeah.
They're both going to be coming out late August, between late August and mid September, around the same time. So that's going to be interesting. Everyone's going to be, in the fall. They're going to be watching a whole lot of fantasy stuff.
HBO and Amazon are about to go toe to toe.
They are going to go toe to toe.
But I definitely want to talk about House of the Dragon too.
Yeah.
It's a prequel, but I would also say it's kind of like in its own little realm of a story. Because George R. R. Martin created this huge, mythos, which is still unfinished. Get to work, George. But it's the story that it's not quite it's not really an origin at all, because at this time the Targaryens have been in power already for hundreds of years after the fall of Valyria, and originally Aegon the Conqueror came out and told everybody to bend the knee.
So this is after Aegon.
Yeah, and this is a story that I don't know if you read up on this. It's about the Blackfire Rebellion.
Yes,
which it deals a lot about the bastard children, and whether there's a vie for power, because the king is basically like, well, I don't want to choose an heir.
Right.
So the two brothers, which is one is a legit Targaryen and the other is the bastard brother,
right,
are going like head to head, and then they have the Targaryen, the Targaryen brother, his sister. I think her name's Rhaenys, and she's basically the one that they're trying to propagate as the queen.
Right.
So there's this huge,
infighting.
A fratricide. That's brotherly. Yeah, right. So fratricidal war.
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they're gonna go toe to toe, and it takes place about a couple hundred years before Game of Thrones came out.
Yeah, about 200 years. Yeah.
And I think it'll be cool. Reason I think it's gonna do well is giving it hopes, but because the story is already set, it's already done.
Yeah,
it's been finished. It was a kind of a shorter story that George. Did we just lose it again?
Yeah, I think we did.
Yes.
All right,
this is why we edit things, because
the camera cuts off every now and then. So bear with us.
One of these days, I have enough money to buy a legit camera that won't turn off.
Just bear with us.
Yeah. So I was talking about the House of the Dragon,
right?
And it's a story that George basically in his writer's block for the overall arc of Game of Thrones. He went off and wrote this little
Right.
story that took place a couple hundred years before,
Mhm.
but it's finished. It's done. There's the beginning, the middle, and the end. The whole thing's been told.
Yeah.
So there's really no room for someone to be like, well, I don't know what to do.
Yeah.
And I don't know what to tell. So
Right.
which
Yeah.
is kind of what happened with Game of Thrones. Is the
Right.
producers.
That's what happened at
Well,
last season.
They got a Star Wars deal that they lost, and then they got a Netflix deal that who knows what's happening. So they're like, you know what? Well, we're done with this. We're just gonna rush through it, and
That was ridiculous.
yeah.
That
They're not coming back for this. This is a whole new team.
Right. Well, thank
So
God
I
for
think
that.
I think
they dropped the ball.
there's hope for that for sure.
Yeah.
Interested to see. There's some good people involved, which I'm hitting a blank on the main dude's name. Who he played Prince Charles in The Crown. The main guy.
Oh,
Yeah.
Matt Smith.
Yeah, Matt Smith.
Matt
Yeah,
Smith.
he's very good.
He's
a great
playing one of
actor.
the Targaryens. That's right.
He's playing the legitimate brother.
Yeah.
In this.
Yeah, that's right.
And
Good actor.
based on the trailers, and also what I've read on the story, it's like he's just kind of like he's like, well, I guess I gotta do this, fight for family honor and whatever, and all
Okay.
that. And then the bastard brothers is like, well, you know what? If there's no claim, then fuck you. Like,
Right. Yeah.
I'm gonna, I'm just legitimate as you are.
Yeah.
The whole idea of what's legitimate and what's not. And
So I get that, but
Yeah.
it sounds to me it's a little bit more of the same.
yeah,
Everyone vying for the Iron Throne,
right.
and instead of the different houses, you have it's happening. The infighting is happening in the family.
Yeah.
So I kind of get that. I understand that. It would have been more interesting. I honestly thought when I first heard the announcement of House of the Dragon, I thought they were going to do the story of Aegon, because to me that's an interesting story.
Like the fall of Valyria and how they came over.
Right, how they came over to
Yeah.
Westeros and they conquered with fire and blood, like they've said, and them conquering Westeros. I thought that's what they were gonna do, because that's
Yeah.
it sounds awesome. First of all, so
Well, an interesting part of that though is there is a tie-in with that whole that era.
Yeah.
Because his dragon is still alive in this time.
in this
Valyria
okay.
the Dread, which is like the biggest dragon that ever existed, like
Right.
huge, like it's
Yeah.
still alive apparently in this.
Okay.
In this,
Okay.
So we'll see if that pops up. And another thing too I like about what I've seen in the trailers, tying back into actually going into the book details, is how big the Iron Throne is.
Yeah.
And how many more swords are around it.
Yeah.
And how it cuts the person sitting on it.
Whenever you're sitting on
so you see
that's
some
the
blood come out of them.
that's
and,
right. Yeah, that was a thing.
Yeah, which never happened in Game of Thrones.
It did not happen in Game
yeah.
of Thrones. They did not talk about that. But yeah, it's a common thing. Like, you're gonna sit on a throne of swords and knives. That's what's gonna happen.
And HBO has definitely been hyping up all this, and they've been trying to get people to rewatch Game of Thrones, which apparently I learned is still up there in streaming, like in streaming numbers. Like people are still watching it.
Okay.
Surprisingly.
It's a good
I
series
I
up
can't-
until the last
I
season.
can't rewatch it without because I know it's just like what's the damn point?
Yeah, you know what happens at the end.
But with HBO's money and
Don't get me started
and all
on that
the
again.
resources they have, it might come out good.
Yeah.
I think Amazon's got their work cut out for them with this series coming out.
Listen, with this fantasy war that's happening, I'm gonna call it fantasy wars.
No, I like it.
I think I'm gonna watch both of them, but I'm more on the side of the Rings of Power,
Yeah.
to be honest. I have a little bit more history with those guys.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I'm definitely excited for that.
So
And the first the stuff that came out of it, like promotional material, was like, oh, what the hell is this?
right, yeah,
Then it came out with like more of the imagery, and I'm like, okay, that looks good. Like the orcs look really good. Looks like really practical.
it does.
I thought they would be doing heavy CGI and all that, but it looks really well done.
It looks
Um,
very, very well done.
I like that a lot.
Yeah.
Interested to see how they're going to condense the timeline, because that's what looks like they're going to do.
I don't know if they're going to condense or expand.
Well, it looks like they're trying to tell a story that took place over a couple thousand years in a.
Oh yeah, that's
shorter-
right. Well, yeah, that's right. Because the Similarian, Similarian,
which talks about the Silmarils.
the Cimerals, the Cimeral jewels.
Yeah.
This is nerd talk now. Deep nerd talk. It does span ages,
Yeah.
like thousands
Thousands
of years.
yeah.
Yeah, it's different ages. First age, second age, third age. So yeah, that's true. It doesn't get very
I think this is
detailed,
supposed to be the
specific.
second age. I
This is the
believe.
second age.
Yeah.
They're going to be talking about Numenor. Numenor is in this.
It's interesting because Numenor fell or
Yeah.
before.
Right. Well, yeah. I mean, this is going to talk about Numenor, and the fall of Numenor is because of Sauron.
Yeah, and
And
Sauron's supposed to be in this.
right, Sauron is in this, and this is his last form before he became the Sauron that we know.
Yeah,
With formless, basically. So this should be interesting, and then we're going to see also how the Rings of Power were ultimately created.
well, I mean, that's the damn title of the show.
Right,
So,
exactly,
yeah, you
exactly.
can
So,
imagine.
no, but this all seems very, very cool. All seems very cool, and I'm on board.
Yeah, I'm sure they're gonna tie in to Lord of the Rings somehow with some references and some Easter eggs.
A lot of it.
Yeah.
A lot of it.
Well, you know what would be really cool that they
Hmm.
would do? I don't know if they are or would even approach it, is like the Ents and their story.
The Ents, yeah, because they've been around.
Yeah.
They've been around.
Mm.
Also, the Maya.
Yeah.
For those who don't know, the Maya are the wizards
Yeah.
and
they're,
Lord of the
they're
Rings.
lesser gods.
Lesser angels,
Yeah.
Kind of, somewhat, right? Yeah, that's what they were called,
Ainur,
archangels,
yeah.
right?
So Sauron is a Maya.
And
Yeah.
so is Gandalf,
Yeah.
right? So they've been around for a very long time.
Yeah.
So if they're going to talk about Sauron, where he comes from, they're going to have to talk about that.
Yeah.
So
But
that should be interesting.
in the mythos, Gandalf shouldn't even be there because he didn't come out until the Third Age. So
Is that right?
yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's true. I guess he's not that old.
Well, he's as old as the universe, but
Yeah. Oh,
he didn't come out until
yeah.
later on.
He didn't come. Okay, fair enough. But no, they're getting into that. So I think that would be cool. I think that's a good exploration. And it's an interesting story. I mean, I, there's a lot of people that do know about the Silmarillion. I talk about it with my friend all the time. So, but it would be good. Yeah, seems like an interesting little journey.
And speaking of super fans, apparently Stephen Colbert is going to have another cameo in this. So
Is he?
yeah,
Oh my goodness. Yeah, he's a fan. Yeah, he was. He was in the Hobbit, right? He was in
he played
the
a little,
army.
he played a little town folk in the.
Yeah, he played the town folk. Right?
in-
It was a guy on a boat, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
So that'd be interesting.
Okay.
They should bring him on as like a console.
He knows his stuff.
Yeah.
He is a super nerd. He recites some of these things from
He
memory.
could like tell you the page number of certain things.
That's crazy, man. That's a whole different level. And he's read the similar, and he's like brought it up on his show, like just randomly. I'm like, why would you do that? Jeez. All right, but yeah, that kind of wraps things up. Oh no, you have one last thing to talk about.
Oh yeah, I was
Prey.
gonna bring up Prey.
Right.
I just watched the trailer earlier.
Okay.
You brought it up last time we were talking.
Yeah, I think it was
when we were hanging out last time.
The second episode. Oh, yeah, I brought it up one.
Oh, it was
one
I
point.
think it was a week ago. You started
Oh, week. Okay. Yeah. So yeah.
So this is a basically like a big prequel to Predator.
Right. This is the first time the Predator race has come to Earth, and they are and then this is the first time that they've landed on Earth. The first time interacting with humans and all the life forms on this planet.
And based on the trailer, it seems like it takes place. I would say like early 1800s America,
something like that. Yeah,
because it shows some
Native Americans.
It shows some I joked about it. I was like, oh, that's a Donner Party. Because
inside joke.
You see some like American like I don't know what we call them, like
explorers.
Yeah, but there's like a different term I'm looking for here. Frontiersmen.
Frontiermen, something like that. Yeah, yeah, I guess so.
Yeah, they're like the trailer. They're like wearing berets and like trying to shoot him with muskets. And the Predators is like right.
Yeah, they have all this high technology.
But yeah, we're talking about like the whole getting on Ana de Armas of like her accent and stuff. It's like I watched the trailer. I'm like, oh yeah, look at these Native Americans who are speaking modern American
They're
English.
speaking modern English, of course.
Yeah,
I'm just going to attribute that to language consultants not being part of the budget. So like they would have to go into the history. This is not Apocalypto.
Yeah.
They're not going to go into the history and think about, well, what language did they speak at this time, and then have all the actors rehearse their lines with that language. It's a bit much. And they got to remember, like, this is an action film at the end of the day. I don't think people are going to give a crap
Yeah.
about keeping it accurate. They need something in English so they can say their lines and then keep the story going.
But I'm interested to see how it plays out. It comes out in a couple days on
Yeah.
Hulu. I believe it's a movie.
Yes, it is.
Um,
I think it's a movie.
yeah, I think pretty sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not too sure if it's a series. Yeah.
I don't think it's a series. I think
Okay.
that, yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, interested for sure. I like the Predator series. I like the Alien. All the ties.
They've done great. I mean, this they've gotten a little cheesy here and there with some of the movies. But yeah, I like the Alien versus Predator. I like the last Predator movie that Robert Rodriguez did. That was fun. I don't expect much from these movies. I understand what I'm getting into when I watch them. I'm not going to look for something that's going to be Oscar worthy or award winning or anything like that. It's just like, all right, as long as it's just not crap, I think I can bear with it.
Yeah, I do hope they kind of go into the psychology of the Predator, and
well, their culture, right? Because
Yeah.
really don't know. Yeah, we understand that hunting is what they do,
Yeah.
but like let's
And
expand that
I
a
think
little
that's
bit.
what they would do. They would send one down and just be
Right.
like, go, kind of like a rite of passage in a sense or something.
Right.
And
Yeah.
I know like the main one in like Alien versus Predator was like a young one, and like
Right.
he was like just basically a teenager in there.
Right, and then you found out that there are more predators and there's a hierarchy, and they kind of like the big predator kills the smaller predators.
But like in each movie too, there's like that little aspect of how they respect the fight, and they they respect like the person at the end. You know, like at the end of Predator 2, where he like gives him the weapon and stuff.
Right.
Like,
it was just kind of like you're the greater warrior kind of thing. Just like they're maybe half Klingon. I don't I don't know, but it'd be good to find out.
Yeah,
if we understood.
We'll see in a couple days
their culture a little bit.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that's about it, man. That's all we've got. Okay, cool. Well, thanks everybody for tuning in. This is our first live experiment. I think it went well. We had a couple of technical hiccups, but that's par for the course.
That's why we're doing it on Facebook and not on YouTube.
And not on YouTube. Yeah.
Once we get things, I think, settled down and figured out, and get the whole camera situation figured out, we can start throwing these out live. And
it's fun, man. Thanks, guys. All of you that have been reaching out to us. Our phones were going crazy. I saw some of the comments there.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I hope that next time we do live, we can do a little bit more interaction with the audience. Bring some people on if people are free.
We'll do a little
Q&A
instead of just like off the cuff, like right away, but like, hey, we're doing this. We'll plan ahead where we can let you guys know that we're going to be on.
Right, we'll post it.
Yeah.
We'll tell you what time, date and time, and all that, so you guys can get ready.
And then another thing too, for those who like might watch this later, is come into our stream or whatever, and if you want us to talk about something that you want to hear about, we can totally riff off that. And with our the system we use, if you want to pop in on a stream and you talk to us, that all for it.
Yeah, absolutely. We can pull you guys into the stream live, and we can talk about whatever subject, just for a few minutes or whatever. But yeah, we can do that, man. So yeah, get ready for it.
Okay, so this was Cinemana.
Yeah, this is Cinemana. This is
Nicholas.
episode 3, and stay tuned. All right, y'all.
And that's Allison.
This is Allison.
All right, and I said Nicholas. Yeah.
Okay.
All right, guys. Later.
All right. Peace, everyone.